Good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to episode 50 of the Mad Mad Trainz podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rochford, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Matt and Johnny. Matt and Johnny, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing really good, man. I'm really excited. Can't believe 50 episodes. Can you believe that?
Had enough of you guys already. 50 is too many.
Well,
I'm kidding. It's going to be fun.
Maybe we'll get to 5,000. You never know.
5,000.
Episode 5,000, and wow, I can't even predict what year that would be.
Well, it's spooky season, so we'll look like skeletons.
We'll be alive in the year episode 5,000, but maybe we will be. I don't know. So
we'll be skeletons by then,
right?
Yep. Maybe we'll just be heads. Just talking heads, in these machines that are just keeping us alive or something.
We'll be robots. But yeah, no, episode 50, big milestone for us here at the podcast, and very excited for tonight.
I'm really excited. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, folks. Well, let's just go over a couple of items here before we get started. As always, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. I also wanted to mention our Discord server, which now has over 200 members. This is a public Discord, so anyone can join. You just have to acknowledge that you read the rules and that you'll be a good person. We have a good group of moderators that just make sure that people are treated with respect and keep our community safe. A link for that will be in the show notes, so you just have to click it. Also, really quick, really cool announcement. For those that are listening to this before the York Fall Train Show, Matt and Matt will be at York. Well, technically be Matt and Johnny at York, and then Matt Z will be there in spirit. Or we'll just have, I thought we maybe were going to make a Matt Z doll or something, or kind of cardboard standout or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're going to have stickers and buttons to give out. Now quantities are limited. So make sure you come visit us at York. Where do you find us? Well, we're going to be, I believe, in the Orange Building, and we're going to be sitting right next to the Trainz folks. They've graciously given us a place to meet and greet folks. Now, just a quick note, we will try to be there as much as possible. Friday during the day is probably when we will be there the most. I can't promise you that we will be there constantly, because obviously, we want to enjoy the show as well, walk around. But if you do stop by, maybe, look around and come back maybe a half hour later, we might be there. Again, we will try to be there as much as we can, and we would love to meet and greet everybody, all of our listeners, and even new listeners who maybe will just kind of spot us and say, Matt, who the heck are those people? So we hope to meet a lot of new people at the York Train Show. So, the Mad Mad Trainz podcast has a easier URL to find us. So it is m&mpodcast.com. Really easy, folks. You just type that in your Google search or just in the URL bar, and you just type m&mpodcast.com, and you'll come right to our homepage. And lastly, of course, let's talk about our merchandise. And the stuff that will be given away at York is from redbubble.com. I ordered it from them. And obviously we have more than just stickers and buttons at our merchandise homepage. There are shirts as well. Mugs, water bottles, just clocks. There's just all kinds of crazy stuff that you can put our logo on. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and go to redbubble.com, and you can search up Matt and Matt. And of course, I will, as always, put a link in our show notes, so to give you an easy way to click there. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Trainz.com. If you are looking for a great deal on used and new model railroading products and want top-notch service, then please head over to Trainz.com, where they have about
over 120,000 products with new ones added every day. You can also sign up for their newsletter to see newly listed and newly discounted products and receive advance notice of upcoming promotions. Now, I've been using Trainz.com myself as well as my co-hosts, and we highly recommend them to our listeners.
Now, if you're like us and you're always on the lookout for your next engine, join the Trainz Rewards program to earn points on every purchase and unlock future discounts. And if you're an avid collector and want first dibs on new items, sign up for the private car membership to get early access to new listings, earn 5 points per dollar spent, and unlock great benefits like no questions asked returns.
Now, guys, don't forget that you'll need parts to keep your engines and cars operating smoothly. And to do this, Trainz has a collection of 15,000 plus parts available on their website for any item you may need. And also, if you're interested in downsizing your collection or know someone who is unfortunately leaving the hobby, Trainz also buys collections. So head over to sellmytrainz.com to get a quote. And Trainz makes it easy to sell your collection.
Now, if you do plan on buying from them, please use our affiliate link, which is www.trainz.com/MMOP. You can also use our unique one-time promo code MMOP for $10 off a single purchase on the Trainz.com website.
All right, well, let's talk about tonight's episode. We finally hit episode 50. I can't believe we're here. Congrats, gentlemen. We finally got here. And what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to reminisce about all of our previous episodes, starting at episode 1. We're going to just kind of talk about it briefly, why we decided to do that episode, maybe some funny moments, and then we'll move on. Yes, we are going to do episode 1 through 49. Grab some popcorn, some chips, grab a favorite drink, soda, orange juice, a beer, wine, I don't know, whatever takes your fancy. Relax and have a good time listening to us talk about, how we got here and all the episodes in between. Matt or Johnny, you guys got anything to say before we get started?
No, I'm really excited for this. We've been planning on what we're going to do for this episode for a while, and I think this is the perfect way to kind of have our first big milestone episode, I guess, is what we're going to do. So I'm really excited for this. So let's take a look at what we got in store.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of content to go through if you think about it. Our episodes usually last between the hour mark, and there's about 50 episodes going to be at the time after this episode releases. So it's over 2 days of content. If you think about it, it's crazy.
That's unreal.
Crazy.
2 days of us talking. Over 2 days of us talking.
All right. So before we start, Matt and I want to talk about like how we actually got here. I know we've kind of spoke about it briefly in some episodes, but when it comes down to like how this all started, like the catalyst, I think it was just like it was really kind of our love for Subways, really.
Yeah, but he's got a point there.
Yeah. And we were both big fans of Derek from the Notch 6 podcast, which we love listening to. Mm-hmm. And when Derek kind of stopped producing, Matt and I I think we talked about it briefly here and there, but he used to watch my channel. I watched his channel because of Subways. And, I just had the idea one day of, if Derek's not going to be doing it, I really miss, this type of social interaction when it comes to model railroading. I really loved podcasts, especially for O-Scale, because he was the only one. And when we lost that segment, I kind of thought figured we lost part of what makes this industry great. And I kind of thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to reach out to Matt. And at that point, like, I didn't really know too many people personally. I knew Matt and I knew a few others, but I wasn't like engaged like obviously we are now. So I chatted him. I believe I chatted you, right? Like through YouTube?
Facebook, through my
Facebook.
Train Facebook page. And then I figured, why don't we call instead of typing all this? So we called, and then the rest is kind of history, I guess. But no, I think that, I think also a lot of it too is the pandemic. We all kind of cooped up in the house, had nothing to do. And so we started doing this. And it just kind of grew to what we have now in the Discord and meeting people and whatever else. And I just couldn't be happier. I love it.
Yep. Same here, dude. Yeah, absolutely. I just can't believe we're at 50 episodes.
50. Can't believe it, man. It seems like just yesterday we're doing episode 1.
I know. I just remember doing episode 1 and just being like, well, hopefully we can get a few episodes out of this before we retire.
Yeah,
and
right?
Man, here we are at episode 50. We have a successful podcast. We have a community Discord server. We're on Facebook. We have people reaching out to us all the time. We've met so many people through this podcast, which technically has been one of the best things about this is all of the people that we've been able to meet and greet, form friendships with. It's been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. I think that, I know we talk about the community a lot and I preface it a lot, but, it's one of those things where, you don't realize what this hobby does until you have a way to talk with people that to you were strangers before in one sense. And now you guys are talking and having a good time, virtually, but you're still having a good time and hanging out, whatever. And it's just a lot of fun.
All right. Well, let's get started.
Yeah, let's go
here tonight because we got a long road to go here.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So episode 1, the Lionel 2020 Volume 2 catalog review. And this was published on August 12th of 2020. And I don't know, just really quickly, I think this was one of the, that first episode. I think we kind of went back and forth on like, oh man, like what should we do for a first episode? And I think like everybody loves catalogs. Let's just do a catalog.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it was. And plus, I think when we did this, the catalog was like a week out or something. It was like very new at that time. And that's kind of the thing we were sticking with when we're doing these later catalogs, which we'll talk about later, was, we did it like the day it was out or, day after it was out or something like that, just to keep it. So that way, when we uploaded it, it wasn't like 3 or 4 months, 2 months later. It was fresh, ready to go. And really fun. Yeah, this is the first one. Can't believe it.
Yep. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think we weren't sure what we were getting into, and I obviously our audio wasn't anything spectacular back then either. We were both trying to find ways to record. I was using some very rudimentary podcasting editing software. So, it's just one of those kind of like, well, let's just learn we'll do some research. We'll learn on the way. But I think the episode actually was very successful. And I need to go back and listen to that episode. Actually, that would be kind of fun.
I went to Atlantic City over May. And I listened to a lot of our early stuff just to see how they were. And, they had some growing pains, but for the most part, the content was the part that I cared about. And it was good. Obviously, you and I were the ones doing it, so we know what was in there. But the point is, I thought they weren't too bad. You could tell by the later ones we got better. But, hey, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yep. I have a question, though, for Johnny, since Johnny was a listener back then. For episode 1, Johnny, first, how did you find us? And what was your kind of initial impression after the first episode?
So mine's kind of a weird one. So the way I found the podcast was actually a couple episodes a little bit later. I think and I'll talk more about this when we get to that episode. Episode 6 was my first episode that I heard from you guys. And I was at a point where I just returned to the hobby. And I was very excited about, Trainz and the model and the hobby and talking to people. And you get to enjoy that from watching people's videos. But the problem with that is with videos, it's very condensed, depending on who you're watching. And it's mostly about the train itself. You don't really get to know the person. So I had that urge to get to know people and have something that was more than just a 20-minute video. And at that time I was a delivery driver. So I was on the road a lot. And I saw Ravenhawk's post on his community tab about you guys, and I listened to that episode and really liked the dynamic between all you guys. And after that, I kind of just tried to play catch up at that point, and that was episode 6. So I had not too many to catch up on, but I remember I listened to every one of those episodes, and you guys were very informative and very personable at the beginning as well. So I just appreciate the fact you guys took a really good in-depth look at things, and were very willing to discuss things and be able to also help folks get into the hobby, which again, further episodes. But yeah, I really enjoyed listening to the podcast, and I would religiously listen for every new episode, to a point where I think there was a gap, maybe a month-long gap between episodes later down the line. And I remember I poked Sid and I was like, yeah, this podcast I found, I really enjoy their stuff, but man, I don't know if they're dead or something. They haven't uploaded in a while. But no, you guys were great from the get-go. And as a listener, I enjoyed the chemistry and the discussion. It was really fun.
Good. I'm glad you like it. And
I hated it.
Oh, you hated it. I always hated it.
Well, speaking of impeccable timing, coming into episode 2.
Oh man,
hey, folks,
this was something.
There's no better time to create a podcast when one of the manufacturers has decided to leave the the industry. So episode 2, MTH closing their doors in 2021, published on August 26th of 2020. Oh my gosh. So we didn't know about this when we first started the episode 1. And then I think we recorded this, Matt? Maybe a few days right after we heard the announcement?
Yeah, I think we kind of, gathered our thoughts and was like, let's just do it right away. And we did. And this was kind of what the episode is what came out, basically. And huge. I mean, obviously back then, knowing what we know now, different story. But the point was back then, that was it. We had no idea. No, nothing. No. We'll get to this later, but the uncatalogued catalog that we loved doing, that was fun. But doing this, it was like, well, great. What's going to happen to MTH? Who knows? We had no answers. We still don't really have a concrete answer, which is too bad. But it's just, it was crazy. And like you said, timing was great. I mean, we just got off the catalog and boom, here's this. So we got another episode. So that's it.
All right, let's move on. Episode 3, how to get started in the O-scale model railroad hobby. This was published on September 8th of 2020. I think this is one of these where we wanted to try to pull in some new people. We wanted to help new people that were coming to the O-scale industry. And I think this is one of those episodes where we're kind of like, well, let's put some help, a helper episode out there and see if we can get some new people interested.
Yeah, I think that this one started off pretty well. And I mean, it was a good episode for people to know how to get started. Because, a lot of people, they don't know. And to have, you can ask questions on the forum, or whatever, but to listen to people talk about what do you do, it's just the way to go about it, really. And I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and a good segment or transition would be episode 4, which was kind of a continuation, and that was upgrading from the basics and adding command control, which is, again, just like something we wanted to build on top of episode 3 of, hey, we want this podcast to be about all kinds of topics, especially topics that can help people that are either getting started or maybe want to start moving into more advanced things in the hobby.
Yeah, those were really good episodes. I remember those stood out to me towards the beginning as a listener, especially for someone who was returning to the hobby too. It's not even just for folks who are brand new out of the gate. It's nice to have a refresher course on these things, because you just go at it and people assume that a lot of it's common knowledge, which some of it is. But stuff like command control, for example, it's something that you're learning new stuff for constantly. Rarely do you have folks who are complete masters of whatever software there, whatever command control system you're using. There's always a feature or two you forget about, and it was really insightful. And I really liked the Welcome to the Hobby series, because you guys broke it down in a really great manner as a listener, and just kind of each topic was very insightful. And you kind of were always just, for me personally, I was excited to see what next topic you would tackle. So it was really cool.
I'll let Matt Z introduce the next episode.
All right, so our next episode was episode number 5, and that was Subways, Trolleys, and Streetcars in O Scale. And this was published on Monday, October 5th of 2020. And you guys know us, I'm not going to spiel it, but subways and all that's kind of how Matt and I got started. At least our friendship and this podcast got going, as he mentioned before. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Talked about the models, a little bit of the prototypes, and why they're so interesting to us and why we buy them. And this is a really fun episode. I enjoyed this one a lot. It's still probably one of my favorite episodes to this day. The topic was cool, but it was just a fun episode to listen to.
Yeah, I know the topic can be kind of polarizing because it's not really popular items in O Scale. But I do have to say, like, this was probably one of my, if not my favorite episode. Next to episode 1, obviously, one of my favorite episodes that we did, just because we got to talk about the one thing that we like absolutely both love.
For sure, absolutely. What do you think, Johnny?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't even remember if I even finished this episode all the way to the end. Like, it was a good episode. You guys had some really good discussion. I remember I was like, oh God, it's the Subway episode. And I was like, do I listen to this? And at that point I was just driving, like, you know what? I got nothing better to listen to. Why not? And it was actually a pretty fun listen. Again, I don't remember if I actually made it to the end. Because I'm not a big subway trolley guy, but I think I learned some. This, I will say, was a very insightful episode because I avoided subways and trolleys in O Scale because to my knowledge, they were just like bump and goes. I never thought they'd have anything more complex than that, but learning about trolley mode and the different sequences that come with it and auto mode and everything, that really opened my eyes to subways and trolleys. And while I am subwayless and trolleyless at the moment, I do want a set of something after being friends with you guys for so long and hearing you guys talk about it. And not only that, but seeing Matt R run his subways and trolleys and electroliners at his house. It was eye-opening. So don't know if I remember I listened to it all, but it was a good episode either way.
I'll be really transparent here. Not that, we will be talking about what episodes are more popular than others, but this is our least listened to episode as far as metrics go. So that was no surprise to us. I think Matt and I did it because we wanted to do an episode on that because it was the one thing we loved. And I'm okay with where that number's at. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to have some that are better than others. And, this was something that, like you said, Matt, that, not everybody is accustomed to it and it doesn't appeal to everybody. But for the people that it does appeal to, and that's great for them and it's great for us because, we enjoy it. And that's just the way it goes. But this is also the source of one of our fun comments that we get, a little feedback. The one guy we were talking, we had the community feedback episode not too long ago, and we always scroll through our comments on, I believe it was Apple, was this one was at, and we were scrolling through it, and he goes, oh, we got a new comment. Oh, what is it? So we look and it goes, these guys, all they talk about is model subways. If you like model subways, this is the podcast for you. I'm thinking, hey, suit yourself. But I thought that was funny. We still laugh at that one just because it's funny.
Yeah, out of 49 episodes, we talk about we dedicate one episode to subways and stuff, and all we talk about is subways. So I don't know. We joke about it because we think it's kind of funny. So
oh yeah, for sure.
Moving on to episode 6. So this I think was one of our kind of key episodes, maybe one of those ones that kind of like jump started us a bit, because this is our number one. This is our first interview episode, and we were able to kind of get one of our YouTube friends from the community, and this was episode 6. We interviewed YouTube model railroader Ravenhawk 6910, which is our good friend Sterling. And this was published on October 22nd, 2020. And we had a lot of fun with this one. And Sterling was a fantastic guest.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a lot of fun. Sterling is always a lot of fun to talk to. He's got a lot of knowledge, and, he knows a little bit of everything. And I think that's a lot of fun to have someone like that who can talk trains for hours and hours and not get bored. It's just a lot of fun. This is a great interview, a lot of content in here, and just a great episode overall. And Johnny, I think this is the one that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, this episode actually has a very special place in my heart as a listener, and of course now as a host. Like I said, I found you guys specifically through Sterling's community tab. Just browsing through YouTube as I was driving along, and I saw that, I was on the Mad Mad Skill podcast. I'm like, there's another podcast out there. Okay, yeah, model train podcast. It sounds cool. And I listened to it. And Sterling is a great friend of the podcast, and he is just a ball to talk to. He's very personable, very funny, very informative. And that gets, conveyed very well on the episode. You guys had a great chemistry, joking around with each other. And it was also my chance to kind of, in a way, meet you guys through the show, since it was my first episode. And I remember there was one thing in here, or two things. Matt R and I had actually interacted before about a year previously through very brief emails. We emailed back and forth, but I was just too lazy to respond to the email to him. And we just stopped talking. And that was on me. But I recognized the YouTube channel, West Chicago Model Barrel, because I'm from West Chicago. I'm like, oh, cool, he's local. And I recognized Matt in this episode from his YouTube channel name. I was like, this is what he sounds like. Oh, that's cool. And he talked about, as always, talked about Metra on this episode. And he's like, oh yeah, I got my West Chicago F40 that has the PFA sequence that says the UP West line, which is the line that I'm by, which is the same goes for me. And I remember being very jealous of Matt in this episode and being like, God, I need to get a Metra of my own. And, but yeah, that was a very fun episode. And it also led up to, me bring it up to our good buddy Sid, and, we can talk about this later, but I met Matt Z through Sid because I actually talked about the podcast during one of the live streams I did with Sid when I was his co-host. And I believe I made Matt almost fall over when I mentioned it. And
yeah.
You were, I bet you would have a spit take if you were drinking something.
Oh yeah. If I would have, definitely, without a doubt. Yeah, it was, remember the stream you guys did that on. I was just, watching it, whatever, talking about the podcast, and all of a sudden it came up. I'm like, holy smokes, we're viewed. We're listened to, I mean, I loved it. I mean, that was really cool. And I'm like, yeah, I did almost fall. I fell out of my chair. But no, that was really cool. It made me feel really good. It was fun.
Oh yeah. We met the next stream that Sid did, and we talked, and eventually through you and Sid, I met Matt R, and it's been responsible for so many things that have happened, or so many adventures, so many trains bought, and so many everything is all through you guys and through the podcast. So yeah, episode 6, even though I wasn't on it, as a listener, it has a very special place in my heart.
Oh yeah. And hell, it even started a couple Discord servers for us too, which is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Can't go wrong with that. And actually the stream with Sid, we had our drinking match.
The one where you and Sid take swigs of your respective sodas, and I didn't have one, so I just pretended to drink whatever imaginary beverage I had.
And I was scrolling through my phone. I still have that clip, and I watched it the other day. I'm like, man,
it's crazy. It's crazy to think how much of our connection with each other, at least from my side, stemmed from this episode. It's crazy now that I look at that. Yeah. That I'm saying it all aloud. Like it all gets tied to this. My meeting of Sterling, the meeting of you guys, And then I remember the night where I met both you and Rochford at the same time. And we unintentionally got to see what Matt saw it looked like for the first time in his shelves of war bonnets.
I remember that too.
He was like, oops, I didn't mean to do that.
But the jig is up. You knew who I am.
We knew the face.
The news is out. They finally found me, right?
Now, if I would have gotten away with it, wasn't for you pesky kids in that mutt of yours. All right. Well, moving on. Continuing our kind of helper episodes. Episode 7, track and train maintenance, which was published on November 2nd of 2020. So yeah, again, this was just one where we just kind of like went, well, let's kind of continue our episodes where we kind of talk about stuff on our layout and how we can help people. And we're like, well, let's do track and train maintenance. It's kind of an easier thing.
Oh yeah, and I think that doing maintenance, I mean, it's something we all have to do, and some people, they don't know what to do, and it's kind of like adding command control or getting into the hobby. It's like, what do I do? And again, the what do I do can be answered on forums, Facebook, whatever it be. But it's like, well, why don't we talk about it? Why don't we talk about what we do? And maybe somebody else will get an idea for what they could do, or, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I'd rather be doing I should be doing it this way instead. So I'll do it that way, or whatever the case is. But I think that these helper episodes were great, and, maybe we'll have to do some more.
And that we did, because episode 8, we decided to do buying, selling, and trading on O-scale engines on the internet. And this was actually, I think, a very popular episode. Yeah. And this was published on November 27th of 2020. Mm-hmm. And I think we just kind of were like, this is working out. It's knowledge that we know. Both Matt and I have, at that point, we were buying, selling, and trading a lot on the internet. And, we wanted to take, and we're not saying we were experts, but we definitely had enough experience that we could pass that on to others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like you said, it's buying. That's something we all kind of do, intentionally or intentionally, that's just kind of the way it goes, trading, hey, I've always said, what, I'd rather trade something, because what, I'd use the money I'd buy from selling the item to buy something anyway. So I'd rather just, trade for whatever I'm looking for, and doing it. We've done that, all three of us, to each other and to, other people outside of us three. It's always been a lot of fun. I think at that point, I believe we did trade for something. I think it was it was the Dash 8 and for the subway.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
it was Dash really 8 cool. And some boxcars.
Yeah, the Vision
Line boxcars. Yeah, reverse. Yep.
Yeah. So I had 2 sets, and I let one go to you, and
yep.
That's cool.
Yep. And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think this episode is also really cool again. And this is again from the listener's perspective. This was a really insightful episode for me. Like I said, I was getting back into the hobby at the time, and I was buying from eBay and stuff, but I was still relatively new to the online market. And I was also very new to selling stuff as well. And I learned a great deal about what I should be looking for, things that I should avoid, things I should avoid as a seller as well, but not to mention being a buyer. And, I still am a firm believer of I'll still buy things without boxes within reason, to Matt Z's dismay. But yeah, no, it was a good episode. Very, very informative.
All right. And then, of course, moving on to episode 9, which was the 2020 holiday special that came out in December 23rd of 2020. And Matt Z, what did we talk about in that episode?
Talked about all the Christmas items that were available. Of course, we talked about the Christmas subway always. And, we talked about the the Canadian Pacific holiday set. I believe at that point, my aunt, she bought one of those. I believe from listening to this episode or watching a video of it or something. I forget what it was. But in any event, she wanted one, and I found her one. And but That's really cool if you haven't seen it, by the way. But no, this was a lot of fun. Really, I think Christmas and the holidays are something that we all think about with Trainz, but I don't think we think about Christmas items specifically. So this is really cool. Just so happened to be a couple days before Christmas, and it also looks like it was our only one during December, which is kind of, I don't know, maybe I don't know what happened there, but in any event,
but we did do 3 episodes in the following month of January, so it all evened out.
That is true. Yeah.
Maybe this is when I was convinced you guys were dead.
Actually, we did episode 10, I believe, on like the 30th or 31st or whatever it was, but it wasn't uploaded until a couple days after that. But,
You are correct. And speaking of episode 10, that was the 2020 year in review. Did we really buy all that? Actually, I think we got a lot of good responses on that one. People enjoyed that one. That was released on January 3rd of 2021. So you are correct, Matt. We did record that at the end of December, but we didn't get it published until January.
Yeah, as I was waiting for it, I'm like, Matt, when are you going to upload 2020 year in review? It's like I saw December 31st came out. Okay, it's going to upload today, right? January 1st came along, nothing. January 2nd came along, nothing. I'm like, Matt, when are you going to upload this episode? I think a 2020 year in review. You kind of want it in 2020, no? But I guess not.
Well, what happens? What if you bought something like on New Year's Eve?
I did that.
See?
But when we do the 2022 year in review, you'll hear all about it.
I'm sure it will. And then moving on to episode 11, this was our second interview. And this was our good friend DJ. So it was interview YouTube model railroader DJ from DJ's O-Gauge Trainz. And that was published on January 13, 2021. And obviously, big thanks to DJ. That was a really good episode.
Absolutely. That was also my 22nd birthday. So
happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Happy birthday to me. But no, that was a lot of fun. I've been talking with DJ for years and getting a chance to interview him. And it's a lot of fun, talking about things, that him and I wouldn't normally talk about. But, I really didn't know until that point his life story and, how he got into Trainz and all that sort of thing. And that was a lot of fun, really insightful episode for myself and for him, just to talk and have fun and all that. But Johnny, what did you think of this one?
This one was a very interesting episode for the fact that this was one of the first episodes where you saw Matt Z take the wheel on this one, because I was so used to, and I'm still used to Matt R being the one guiding conversation and such. But having Matt Z at the controls was interesting, and you guys had a really good dialogue back and forth.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. All right.
Speaking of a lot of fun.
Oh God, this
episode
next one,
12. This is the craziest episode we ever had. So I want to give some insight on how the title too. So this is our first like super big episode too. Like we had a lot of downloads. So episode 12, it's a Mad 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 Lionel 2021 Volume 1 catalog review. This was published on January 26th of 2021. So just some insight for folks where that title comes from. And if you haven't seen this movie, you're doing yourself a really disservice. Back around like 1963, there's a movie called It's a Mad 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 World. And all these movie stars go on this like scavenger hunt, and it's absolutely hilarious. So do yourself a service. Go watch this movie. First, go watch this movie because it's funnier than heck. All right. So I'll get off my movie review thing. I'm a big fan of movies too.
I
don't have a podcast on that yet, but
I thought that title looked familiar. Like when you were talking about, I'm like, I know I've seen that somewhere. And now I know.
Yeah. Well, if you watch the movie, you'll get why I called the title of this. It's a Mad 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 Lionel 2021 Volume 1 catalog review. So I think a lot of older folks probably got it. But again, go watch that movie. It's a classic. But yeah, this was myself, Matt Z, DJ, and then of course our friend Sterling, Ravenhawk. And oh my gosh, this is This one went off the rails several times.
Yeah, maybe it was a crazy train. I don't know, but but no, this one, I listen to this, I still laugh to this day. This one is just a ton of fun. We joke galore, have fun, talk trains. There's just so much in here that it's a long one, but it's worth it. It's a lot of fun. And if you want to laugh, listen to this. You'll hear Southern accents. You'll hear you name it. It's just a lot of fun. Johnny, what'd you think of this one? I know you listen to this one.
This is actually an interesting one because I somehow managed to miss it entirely. So it was like we were pretty far along in us like being friends, getting to know each other. You're like, oh, dude, that episode with DJ and Sterling, oh, that one was great. I'm like, yeah, it was wonderful. When did this happen? So I had to go back and listen to it. But it was a ball. It was great. It was absolutely a fun episode, and you guys all had a great dynamic, and you went off the rails quite a few times, but it was in the most enjoyable way possible. It was so much fun, and everybody was taking jabs at each other, and it was fun.
Oh yeah, can't go wrong with some old fashioned humor, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So moving on to I think I don't know about you, but this is actually one of my favorite episodes too. Episode 13, which was the Fallen Flags and O-Scale K-Line and Weaver models, and this was published on February 5th of 2021. And I really, really enjoyed talking about this because I know both you and I, Matt, are K-Line fans.
Oh yeah, and this one, I think it's cool to realize, that maybe they don't make them like that anymore. And we'll talk about this later because we've done that number of times before. But to realize, what you had, and maybe you don't know what you got till it's gone, this could come into play, especially K-Line with their passenger sets and things like that. They made some great stuff. Weaver did too. Weaver made nice brass steamers, and the both companies, they really had a great selection of items and a great following. And it's too bad that they're not around, but this episode kind of makes them live on, and it was a lot of fun. And the description says that we're thinking about having additional ones in a future episode, and we'll have to tackle that because I'm sure there's some things that I know I'd like to do. I'd like to do some tin plate and stuff like that, and we might have to look into that in the future.
Yeah. And then, of course, moving on to episode 14, which is I don't remember if we wanted to call this like our Menards episode, but I think this one was definitely a Menards episode. But it was episode 14, Buildings and Accessories for O-Scale. This was published on February 16th, 2021. And yeah, it was very pro Menards, but at that time Menards was pretty huge for buying buildings, and even today, a couple of years later, they're still going, still making new buildings, and people love them.
Oh yeah, they're constantly putting out new stuff, and yeah, their buildings, we talked about in the episode, but you want a nice, affordable building that looks good, by all means, look into them. I got a couple from you, Matt, and I really like them, and so thank you again. And I think that they're really worth it for the money. Definitely can't go wrong.
I think this is one of the episodes that made me really consider Woodland Scenics and really appreciate the Menards buildings. I still think a full Menards episode would be a very fun idea for us to do, or we taught to go back on that subject, because they've released quite a lot of awesome pieces since this episode came out. But yeah, this was a fun one.
And a lot of them too. I mean, some of the Menards ones you try to find, they're very hard to find and very expensive when you do find them, like the York Hotel and then the big train station they have come to mind right away. Those are very hard to find and very expensive when you do find them. But they're great. I mean, like I said, they're very well built buildings, and especially for the cost, you can't beat it. Definitely, I think after you get some of them, you kind of look at MTH and Lionel and some of the other manufacturers, at least in my opinion, I did anyway. And I thought, man, I don't really don't do it for me as much as when I get the Menard stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but they're really cool.
The high pitched whine is something you got to get used to, though.
Oh yes, the electronic whine definitely is something you got to get used to for sure.
Here's something funny too. Moving into episode 15 now. Believe it or not, this is episode 15. We've done 15 episodes. This is the third one with the DJ in it. DJ was almost like a host of the podcast at that point. So this is episode 15. I don't think DJ even knows that. Weathering and custom detailing in O-scale. This was published on February 26th. This was actually very, very insightful. And I took a pretty big back seat in this episode as well, because, I wasn't really into weathering and custom detailing, and I really wanted to kind of like soak in everything DJ had to say. And this was, again, a really excellent episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You called him a weatherman.
That's right. I did.
Weatherman. We're not talking about the weather you see outside. No. Well, kind of, but not in that regard. But no, this is a lot of fun. And yeah, said talking with DJ and his weathering, I've always admired it. I have several pieces from him. At the time of this episode, I had more. I since let go of some of them, but I still have some left, and they're great. His work is really good. The stuff he does, his detailing, his passenger sets really came to mind. That's kind of the preface reason why I want to do this episode, was because of his passenger sets and the way he takes the cars and really makes them into just something crazy. I mean, he has like the Amtrak El Capitan, and that video is probably my favorite one he's ever done as far as detailing goes, because that one, really, the interior he did on that thing is just incredibly detailed. I mean, you'd swear it was a real car. It just looks so great. And there's a lot of other sets that he's done that they look beautiful. They're all great. And talking about subways a little bit on this, kind of how he did he has the number one Broadway local, the off-white one, the one that was always really disgusting looking. So I asked him about that, and this is just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. Giant Jew, what did you think of this one?
I'm just sitting here thinking if maybe I got that confused with his interview episode. It's been such a long time. Maybe this was the one I was thinking of, but yeah, this is during the what I would refer to as the classic era of the Matt and Matt podcast, where you could almost make a bingo sheet for these topics, because you would always say something about anchovies, or you would always say something. No, not just anchovies. It was something about Matt Rochman would talk about Metra or CTA, and then Matt Z would always mention DJ. And he would always mention DJ's K4.
Yep.
Like, it was almost guaranteed every episode. So at that point, I kept joking with him, like, I can make a bingo card for you guys for each episode.
No wonder why DJ never came back.
I know, yeah. He hasn't been back since.
That was the classic logo, too, back then, wasn't it? With your Genset and the... Oh, yeah. The Genset was also one that was a part of that list, too.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that one the other day. I'm like, man, it'd be nice if I could have got that.
That's right. I forgot about our old logo.
Yeah.
K4 on the Genset.
Yeah. I think that was I forget why we chose those engines, probably because they're just something we talked about all the time. I know the Genset was just an inside joke between Matt and I, because I wanted it and he was the one that ended up buying it, and that's always a fun one to joke about. But I forgot about that. Yeah, we did have the old logo. And I remember when he changed it, Matt messaged me. He goes, "What do you think about this new logo?" I'm like, "It's pretty cool. I like it." But I mean, I still like the old logo. I can't go wrong with the classic.
I agree. No, I our old logo was, built on the, hey, we need a logo for this podcast. And I do love it. It does have some really strong historical value for us. But I think the new logo is definitely a little more modernized. How about that?
I agree. What we should do? Maybe we should make a run of stuff with our old logo on it.
So,
why not, right?
Oh, we're like the bands now, like put out our old logos.
Yeah.
Like, we're like sports teams, like with their old logos. Like,
the old retro stuff, you know.
Yeah, right.
Throwback.
Anybody want any retro Matt Meadow scale stuff?
That's it. All right.
Moving on to episode 16. This was actually pretty cool. This was a very cool show. It was also a very confusing show. Episode 16, the MTH 2021, the uncatalogued catalog. And this was on March 17th, 2021.
What an episode. I mean, to think this was, that was then, this is now kind of thing. I mean, to think that, and this was long too. There's like 70 products, I think, that they listed. And to think that where we are now, there's hundreds now, and if not maybe 1,000 at this point. To think that, MTH is done. Oh, wait, no, they're not. They got stuff coming out. And we thought this was it. Yeah, boy, were we wrong.
I remember listening to this episode where I was coming back from one of the hobby shops that Matt and I frequent. And I was like, oh, these are cool. Yeah, it's not much there for me. And I think this was the one where the Metra SW1 was announced, wasn't it?
Yes.
I remember like, oh, okay, nothing there. Metra. Gosh darn it. And obviously I said some more colorful words at the time, but I remember I was like, dang it. I need one of these. And I ended up passing on it. But I was like, you, as a listener of the podcast, you hear Matt talking about, oh, we'll never see Metra again, or it'll be a while till we see it again. So at that point, I was just like, when are we ever going to see Metra stuff from MTH ever again? So this one was I just remember, and I think Matt will understand, Matt R will know this exact location. I heard to you, excuse me, I was listening to the podcast. You had mentioned the Metra switcher just as I was passing underneath the EJ knee bridge on Butterfield.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's like, dang it, I need this thing. But you bought one, so I can just play it then instead of having to buy one of my own.
You guys could borrow trade like we talked about.
Exactly. Lend-lease.
There you go.
All right. Well, moving on to episode 17. So this is interview with our good friend, YouTube model railroader, Sid from Sid's Trainz. And this was published on March 27th of 2021. I'll let Matt Z start out here.
All right. Sid, I mean, what can we say? He's a wealth of knowledge. He can upgrade basically anything. This is a lot of fun talking, kind of like with DJ, his story and how he got into Trainz and this, all the nuances. Sometimes you don't think of these things when you interview people, like how did they get started? Everybody has a story, of course, and later on we'll talk about our own. But this was just a lot of fun, talking with Sid. Sid's a great guy, like I said. I talked to him, a couple times a week, and always a lot of fun talking with him. In this episode was no exception. Great stuff.
I remember catching Sid on the tail end of this episode, actually, and I say that in regards to I was on a call with our one of our friends, Burnsy, on Discord, and Sid, Burns, and I would talk constantly at the time, and I remember like, where the heck is Sid? Oh, he's doing the interview with the Mad Mad guys. I remember Sid had a blast. He can read how fun it was to just talk Trainz with you guys and be able to talk about the industry and what he does and everything. It was a very fun episode. And it's also great as a listener to hear one of your friends being interviewed as well, it was just fun. It was fun all around.
Oh yeah. And I think that, so doing the interviews and listening to, your own friends be like, hey, I know that guy. You know what I mean? And I think that's always really cool. Yeah, I think I remember after we were done recording, we were just talking, and we were talking about Tony Lash and all that sort of thing, just having a good old time. And then we came back onto the Discord, and this is before the Matt Discord, but our own private Discord we have, and we just had a good old time. We kept the conversation going. We went from one place to another.
Yeah, and kudos to Sid as well for taking the time out to come on our episode. So he was awesome interview as well. You're like, with all the technical knowledge he has, it's just like, holy cow. He's like a walking technical manual,
basically.
And this was kind of like the start of a terror that we went on with interviews, because episode 18, probably the worst guest we've ever had on.
Yeah, who's this guy? Do you know who he is?
I don't even know. I don't know what happened to him, but we interviewed YouTube moderator Honey from Odomas. Did I say that correctly, Johnny? I don't know. Maybe you can.
So. I think that's close.
Published
enough.
on April 19th, 2021.
Yeah, you guys let the QA down. Like, QA really dropped the ball. You had a terrible guest on.
We fired that booking agent, by the way.
Yes, we did. I think it was me. I got fired a couple episodes back.
That was a fun episode, just because it was really mind blowing for me, because Matt and I joked about it all the time. Matt Z and I joked about it all the time. It was like, oh, you know, Johnny's the #1 fan of the podcast.
Still is.
And still am.
That's right.
I don't know about that. Maybe like a number 49th or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, it was a very fun podcast. I just felt bad because we planned it out. And this is when I was still doing delivery. My shift ran late, because some lady in like 2 towns over was upset that she was missing an icing dipping cup. And that just made me so late. I was like, are you serious? This podcast I've been a big fan of. I want to be, they asked me to be a guest, and I'm going to be late because some lady wants her dipping cup. You know, and I did get back, and I was just so tired from work and everything. But I was like, all right, we'll do this. And it was a fun episode. Really fun to kind of it was just kind of surreal to be on the show, and the questions were fun. The discussions were fun. I remember there was one point where I feel like I came off like a complete like idiot, but so to the point where I dreaded listening to the episode. And I think it was during the point where I was talking about like my views on how we should proceed in the industry with a starter set. And I remember I said something, and then Matt, like one of the Matts counterpointed me, and I'm like, oh, I'm just being complainy. But it was fun. It was very fun. And it's just kind of surreal to look back that I was the guest for episode 18. And now I'm sitting here in the driver's seat with you guys as a co-host. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, jokes aside, obviously you were awesome guest. We loved having you on. I think we knew back then, we're like, man, this guy, let's get him on here as a host one day.
Yeah. I think it was around this time that we were kind of having our talks about what do we want to do next. And, obviously we know, Johnny's a host now, and number of episodes later on, we'll talk about that. He actually did join us, and but this was a lot of fun. What's that?
What? No, he did?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But, no, this is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. I remember when you told me, you were like, I haven't listened to my episode yet. And I've kept going and going. I'm like, John, did you ever listen to our episode? He goes, no, I still haven't listened to it yet. Then he messages me, or we talk, whatever. He goes, I finally listened to my episode. I was like, oh, finally, it's about time.
I think what it is too is like when you not really doing like podcasting and stuff like that, where you're just getting started, you're always like weirded out by hearing your own voice. And I was the same way. Like when we started the first couple episodes, and I was like editing them, I'm like, is this what I really sound like? Are people going to like this? Like, do I sound like a geek? But because I am a geek, but that's okay. So moving on to probably, obviously a fantastic interview episode. Podcast Collide interview with our good friend, legendary Not 6 podcast host, Derek Thomas. This came out on April 25th, 2021. And again, big thanks out to Derek, who gave us a lot of tips, a lot of strategy. It was a fantastic episode. And I'm sorry to say that we haven't had Derek on since. And that is our fault. And we take responsibility for that. I take responsibility for that. That is going to be one of our goals for 2023 is to get Derek back on the podcast, because we would love to hear from him, see what he's doing, and just get his advice.
what a guest to be one-upped by. I was like, oh, I did okay. I mean, my episode was all right. And then you have Derek Thomas right afterwards. That was a really great episode. I thought that was super fun. He was very insightful, and just the ultimate collab of just the two podcasts, and the fact that he kind of gave you guys his blessing as passing the torch down was just super awesome.
Like we talked about earlier, kind of like inspiration. I mean, he was the man. I mean, I still go back and listen to his old stuff just because, it's nostalgia for me, but B, it's very useful information. The guests he interviewed, people that we have not, and unfortunately with someone that will not be able to have as guests, but they were just great, and talking with him and kind of getting the ins and outs of what made him want to do it, and just having a good old discussion about podcasts. Really, I mean, we really didn't talk Trainz a ton in that episode. It mainly was podcast stuff.
Correct. Yep.
We all had a great time, and I remember I called Matt on the phone after we got done with that episode, and I was just blown away after doing that episode. I was like, I mean, it was crazy. That was my surreal episode. I really felt like we made it at that point. And, later on I'll feel that way too. But that was just a great episode. And yeah, I definitely want to have him on for something. I don't know exactly what, who knows. But I definitely do want to have him on again, just because that was just a great episode. I'd love to see what else he has in store for us.
Yep, absolutely agree, dude. All right, so moving on, episode 20. This is Atlas and MTH Product Tooling, a New Frontier for O-Scale. This is published on May 19th, 2021. And we talked about Atlas and all of the tooling that they bought from MTH and what, we could possibly see from that.
I'm surprised Mazzy hasn't chimed in yet. For this one, I remember the announcement came out, and I remember being really excited for it, and just kind of curious on how, because it was kind of a game changer, because this was when I think Atlas announced that they were switching to Proto 3, which I think was a big thing that people got really excited for, because we love the classic ERR TMCC sounds and all that, but with Atlas, you always have to worry about you had the detail and everything like that, but you weren't getting really the sound quality and command control that you really were expecting for something that looked that great. So this was really exciting. And also it kind of gave people more hope as well for seeing some of their favorite toolings being repurposed again, and confirm that they weren't just going away forever, which was really, really nice. So hearing you guys discuss it, we really made folks really excited, and was nice to get some confirmation that things were looking up for the better.
No, this episode was a lot of fun, and this was MTH. I'm sorry, Atlas, when they bought MTH's tooling. I think this was the day the announcement came out. We did this one, and I think you edited it real fast too. But no, this is great. Talk about MTH, and later on we went through the catalog that they actually did produce some of these items in, and it's really nice. Like Johnny said, with ERR kind of going by the wayside a little bit. They're still using some of their engines. The Atlas Master Line engines are still the ERR base, but the Premier Line series, that's the new Proto 3, which is basically, to put in a word, these items that MTH and really that Atlas has bought from MTH is really kind of MTH engines in a blue box. Not really much difference, and kind of similar story with Lionel and their items that they make, minus the engines. The engines, of course, have legacy and wireless tether and all that sort of jazz in them, but the rolling stock is basically the same thing that you got from MTH, which is really nice. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, and it was a great episode. I really enjoyed this one.
All right, well, moving on. Episode 21, Matt, Matthew, and Maddie. 2's company, 3 is a crowd. This was an interview with Maddie C., our good friend. This was published on June 6th of 2021. And again, just, we wanted to do an interview with some of our YouTube friends out there. And Maddie C., of course, said he would definitely come in. Come on. And this was a good episode. We had 3 Matts on.
Mm-hmm. And we did that eventually later on in episode 49. We had 3 Matts on too.
That's right.
But no, this was great. Matt's always a fun person to talk to. We like to joke about this one. He was watching the Islanders game during the episode, and Matt had a fun time editing this one, right, Matt?
No comment.
Yeah, no, this was great. I really had a good time with it. I've watched Matt, for years. I remember him doing his old stuff. I remember when the Heritage units from Norfolk Southern came out. He was literally, he had filmed his computer. He's going to hate me for this when he listens to this. But he filmed his computer saying, oh, they just came out with this one. They just came out with that one. Whatever. It was like, oh, man, it's really cool, whatever. And, watching his layout kind of progress. And he just kind of stopped for a little while. And then he eventually rekindled his YouTube channel. We've been kind of talking ever since he really started that. And just really fun episode.
Too many Matts. Too many. Excessive amounts.
So many Matts, so little time. There was a song from the 80s. I'll move on. Let's see. Episode 22, Advanced Command Control Tips and Tricks, published on June 28th, 2021. So again, continuation of our helper, what we call helper episodes. And this one was really fun to do. Like Matt, I like talking about command control. It's kind of what even though we do have some conventional stuff, it is like 95% of at least what my layout is constructed for. So I had a lot of fun talking about command control and what you could do. And like we talked about like stuff like doing recordings and, programming your switches into your remote and all kinds of like really cool stuff.
Oh yeah. And, like recording with, command, there's always things that, even sometimes I even think, I don't really know everything there is to know. And, But no, this is great. So we talked about the DCS companion book, which if you don't have that, go buy it. It's written by the late Barry Broskowitz, and I still wish that we could have interviewed him. Derek did, and I've listened to that one a number of times just because that was a great interview. And I said Barry, he knew it all when it came to DCS, and I said he was a great resource and an unfortunate loss for the hobby for sure. But this was a lot of fun. Johnny, what'd you think of this one?
Didn't I request for you to talk about switch machines and programming switches specifically?
I think
Matt?
you did.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a case where I was like, I don't know much about this. Talk about it on the podcast for me.
Yeah, we've had a couple times where people have requested either parts of episodes or whole episodes, and you'll see this later. But this is one. I remember we were talking with. He was like, I don't know how to do this. Talk about it. So there we go. I sure did.
Yeah, unfortunately, that having Barry, just kind of go back on that. Having Barry on here would have been a super highlight for us. So, rest in peace, obviously. We missed out on that, but he lives on through his awesome DCS guide that he created, and I actually have a copy of it, and I actually use it from time to time, going back to reference things and like, oh wait, now how did that work again? And so it's if you don't already have it, it's you can download it digitally as a PDF, and it's a fantastic kind of guide for you to have if you have a lot of DCS on your layout.
Absolutely. He's got the one for the remote and the one for the Wi-Fi, and I have both. And yeah, they're fantastic resources without a doubt. I wish you kind of made one on Legacy. That would have been even better. But,
absolutely. All right, episode 23. So this was the Atlas June 2021 premiere O-Scale catalog review. This was published July 8th of 2021, and this was I like doing catalog shows, and obviously that we'll see more of that in a little bit. But this was a fun episode.
Yeah, this was the as we were alluding to earlier with the Atlas stuff, which is in episode 20. This was their catalog where they showed a lot of the items they bought. Obviously, in the list, they showed everything they bought, and they were going to slowly start releasing it as time went on. And they did this, which is, I believe, a majority of it was all MTH, ex-MTH items. And they've since done another one, which we did not do. We were going to, but we just decided not to do it. But no, this is a great episode talking Atlas stuff. And I said, like Johnny said, really kind of rekindled Atlas's people's knowing that Atlas is still into O-Scale. It's not a dead thing to them. And that's great to know, because for a while stuff was really slow or canceled or whatever. And it's great to know that they're still going strong and keeping with O-Scale, because the stuff they make is fantastic, without a doubt.
For sure. Totally 100% with you there, man.
All right. Episode 24, the Fantastic Four versus the Lionel 2021 Volume 2 catalog. Who comes out on top? This was published on July 19th of 2021. And this was myself and Matt Z, Johnny, and Maddie C. And we all, again, we wanted to have kind of like a quad of people and talk about the catalog. And this was pretty fun show.
Absolutely. This was, we talk about 3 Matts. Well, guess what? We have 3 Matts in this one too. So there's that. But no, this was great. This was the catalog with the Strasbourg 90 in it. And that was a significant portion of that catalog review. Very nice engine. I believe it's due out here soon. I believe another month or so. But no, great catalog. A lot of fun. Like we said, talking with Matt and Johnny. Always a good time. And this one was no exception. And it was so good that we did it again later on in the episode series. Johnny, what did you think of this one?
Oh gosh, this was such a long episode. It was a very fun episode. I think it was my first catalog episode I did with you guys. A lot of fun. Us choosing Maddie C to join us was not an accident. He is the resident Strasbourg expert in our group. So having him to talk about 90 was very intentional. And it was a lot of fun. I will say, I also did a catalog review for my channel the next day with a bunch of our YouTube friends. And having to go through the entire catalog back to back twice in the span of 24 hours was, oh my goodness, that was crazy. But no, as from the podcast perspective, it was a very fun episode. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, doing the your live stream, that was fun. I remember when you guys did that. It was great. It was what you, Matt, DJ, Blake, Steve, a couple other people. There's a lot of people in there.
Both Chris's, Jason, everyone.
You remember that, Matt Z, the one that we weren't on?
I couldn't make it, but I was watching them do it. Actually, I think you and I were in the other chat room when they were on there.
I know. I'm just trying to start trouble. That's all.
But, no, that was a lot of fun.
All right, episode 25, Matt and Matt up in smoke units. So this is another movie reference. Matt, Z, or Johnny, any guesses?
I'm drawing a blank on this one.
Wow.
No.
My brain just gave me dial tone.
Old. Cheech and Chong, Up in Smoke was the movie.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
All right. I got to stop using titles for movie references because you young people aren't getting any of them. This was published on August 17th of 2021. And I think this was a really cool episode because smoke is one of those kind of like things that people either love, hate, or just kind of like meh on. And, and it could be some of the most troublesome pieces of technology in your engine. So this was a lot of fun. I think we talked about like smoke sense too, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I think at that point I think I just found out that the black licorice was a scent. I think because because we were looking it up before the episode, and I did happen to see. I think it was new at the time. But no, this is a lot of fun, and you need to use different movie references like "Hey, I'm walking here." But we'll have to find a way to combine that into an episode. Oh wait, we already did. But we'll get to that later. But no, this is a great episode. Smoke units is, like Matt said, it's one of those things that it's probably the most thing you have to maintain almost a lot on an engine. Just because, if you run them a lot, they dry out, they burn out, just stuff happens to them, and it just kind of goes with the territory. It's like earlier with the maintenance, it's one of those things you just have to do and just goes with the territory. But fun episode. Johnny, what'd you think of this one?
That was a fun one because, smoke units are a thing that you kind of got to learn how to maintain or be at the very least very cautious of when you're getting into this hobby. And you guys gave a lot of really good advice. Like I still to this day, you still use you guys' advice of giving certain manufacturers smoke units a little bit extra fluid, rather than following the manual to a T. Because some of those smoke units will gobble up that smoke fluid, and you have to add more. So it was very insightful as well.
Yeah, and one quick tip on the black licorice smoke scent: if you do buy it. Really quick tip, go into your backyard, dig a hole, put it in the hole, bury it, and walk away and never dig it up ever again. So
if you go to us at York and you present us with black licorice smoke fluid, you will not be rewarded with a sticker or a button. You'll be rewarded with us with punch to the face. I kid, obviously.
No, here's the real thing. If you just so happen to purchase black licorice smoke fluid at York, please mail it to my address.
Email it to you. Put it down the disk drive, send it.
Oh, why did I? Oh, you're gonna get me for that one. That'll be used as future bait.
I will.
Great. I just made a joke for you at my own expense. Lovely.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we are halfway there.
Living on a prayer, right?
That's right. And this is probably a good time to move into our next set of episodes, which is actually our only part 1 and part 2 episodes I think that we've ever done. And actually, This is probably one of, if not my favorite episode. I know I'm going to say that a million times, but this is one of those pinnacle episodes I think that we never thought that we were going to do. And it happened for us. And I think it put us, I think it helped put us on the map for sure. And this was episode 26, interview with YouTube moderator. Start over. Episode 26, interview with YouTube model railroader Eric Siegel from Eric's Trainz. And this was part 1. This was published on August 28th, 2021. And again, just he is a blast to talk to. And he was a great interview. And, again, he was one of the guests that we said when we first kind of started this podcast, like, hey, maybe one day Eric Siegel will come on our podcast. We kind of said that jokingly, and then it happened. And then, we kind of said, hey, this is, we're kind of getting kind of serious now.
Yeah. And this was another one of those, surreal interviews. I remember you and I talked after the episode was over too, and we were both kind of starstruck. I think even more so than with Derek. I mean, it's that Derek, I was blown beyond away. I mean, that one was just crazy out of body experience with that one. This one was no exception. I'm talking with Eric. I mean, it was like, honestly, it was like we made it, dude. I mean, I still can't believe it. I listen to this one occasionally too, just because it's a fun one to listen to. It's long, which is why it's in 2 parts. But Eric is just great to talk to, and I think the best part about him is that he doesn't just answer a question. He answers a question, and with great length answers the question, not just a one-word answer. Very long, detailed answers to questions, and that's great. It's a lot of fun, and obviously it takes up time, but hey, what can you do? People like to talk, and nothing wrong with that beyond any reason. But really a fun episode, and part 1, and then obviously part 2, which is the next episode. A lot of fun, and I would love to do something with Eric in this style format again. We've had him on for catalog episodes, and we'll get to that later. But this was a lot of fun. Love to do something again. A real quick shout out. I got to give a shout out to a buddy of ours, Zach, with Joker's Trainz. He kind of got this whole thing going, and I got to give a huge thanks to him. Without him, this probably never would have happened, and who knows where I would be today. It's one of those things. I look back, and when we were talking about doing this episode today, I thought about it. I'm like, man, what would have happened if I never would have started doing this? Matt and I, and never would have done the episodes in the order we did them, and this domino effect basically just kind of happened. I think, where would I be today without this? So I got to take a second, just give you guys a huge thanks. This means a ton to me, and I'll hit this later. You know me, I'd like to do this, but big thanks, guys. I really appreciate it a ton.
Yeah, I'm going to second that too with Zach, our good friend Zach, who definitely was the catalyst for getting this interview set up with Eric. So, and I've told him this before, and we both told him before, and we owe him big time for it as well. And he's been, in fact, he's been really good. He still promotes our stuff on his YouTube channel as well. So hats off to you, sir. I definitely owe you a lot. And we'll be seeing Zach at York as well. So I'll be able to buy him
at York
several beers or wine or whatever, treats your fancy as far as drinks goes.
What do you think of these episodes, Johnny?
It was a good episode. I loved that. It was a case where you really got to get to know Eric again on a more personal level of hearing his thoughts and opinions on the industry, and really some wave of nostalgia for me, I guess, in a way, of the classic Eric Siegel videos from when I was a kid, and just getting to have that and more. It was just a really fun episode. I remember my good friend, our good friend Tim, and I listened to this on our way to Detroit for Trainapalooza. Just so much fun, just an absolute blast, and you can listen to this episode over and over again. You'll never get bored.
I feel like doing this and sitting. I was just talking about this the other day, and it was like when I did the episode with DJ, and when I talked to him for the first time on the phone, it's like I'm talking to a YouTube video, and that's kind of what I felt like with talking with Eric. It's like I'm talking to, nostalgia 2010 Eric on a YouTube video, like on a podcast. You know what I mean? It's just so cool. I love it. A lot of fun.
And of course, moving on, episode 27 was the second part to that. Again, it was a really long episode. We didn't want to cut anything, so we're just like, let's just make it 2 parts. I don't know if I would ever do that again, because I don't really like cutting episodes in, because we don't want to force people to, like, I don't want to make that like continued in the next episode. We don't want to go there. But that was episode 27 was part 2. And then moving into episode 28, Transformers and Powering an O-Scale Layout. This was published on September 27th, 2021. And this was, again, our continuation of our helping the community episode. And again, I just might not like talking about this stuff. And, this was no different than any of the other kind of tips and tricks episodes that we did in the past.
For sure. Real quick, going back to 27, you should have done previously on the Mad Mad O-Scale Trainz podcast. We interviewed Eric Siegel.
Oh, man.
But no, this one, this was a lot of fun. We talked about, powering, obviously, with Transformers, and how to wire correctly, which is something that, going on the help thing, it's something that people need to know and learn how to do it correctly, because without it, it's just not, your trains aren't going to work right. There's going to be problems and all this sort of thing. And it was around this time when I also got my Z4000 from Zach, again, Joker's Trainz. And this was just a great episode. I learned a lot, from listening to you talk, man. Obviously, my knowledge throughout the years, and hopefully, what I look at it this way: if any of these episodes help one person, I think we've done our job. And
bingo.
I think that this was just another case of this is fun. We're enjoying it. We're doing it, and let's help somebody else along the way. Johnny, what'd you think of this one?
It was very insightful for this one. For folks building a layout, and really, you have to take the time to really learn how you need to wire your layout when you're first getting into this hobby and when you're redoing your layout or building your layout. Because if you don't take the time to do that, then you're going to be in for a miserable time when it comes to running trains, and having the right transformer is really important. This is coming from a guy who was using MTH starter set transfer through the DCS Explorer, and I learned a lot from you guys in terms of what bricks and what power supplies I should use, and it definitely helped my layout get to a point where it is now, where it is a smooth running layout. And especially when it comes to learning about things like isolating your loops as well. I think it was just Matt R. Did you isolate your loops yet at this point or not? I know you and I were. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, my inner loop, my subway, my elevated subway, my inner loop, and my outer loop are all on 3 different, are segmented.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's important to, like I said, important to know how to wire layout. If you're building a layout now and you need some assistance, this is the episode to go to.
Yeah, for sure. Keep going.
All right. Episode 29. This was the top 10 train sets of all time. I wonder if and this was published on October 19th, 2021. So this is about a year ago, almost a year ago. And this was, I wonder if this would change now if we did this again. I don't know. I don't think so. Well, maybe. Maybe, because I've gotten a few sets in the last year. So I don't know. But I actually like these kind of like top 10 templated podcasts. And I hope that we do a lot more because I think they're intriguing. I think it's really cool to hear other people's opinions on what they think the top 10, fill in the blank are.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, this was kind of our test to do more things like this. And, we eventually will. I think doing this episode, I think will be a good help to think of, hey, we wanted to do this back in the day. Why don't we try to do it? I think that this is one of those that, we kind of were thinking of an idea and we ended up doing this. And this is what we came up with. And I really think that this is a great episode. And I know one of the ones we talked about doing was a electric episode, and like, steam and diesel and just, like you said, fill in the blank episode that we'd like to do. So we'll have to look into that. It actually was cool. We had a couple duplicates on the list. I know the preamble set was for sure one of them, just because that set is just wicked cool. I still need to get one of those. It's actually part of our channel banner. If you look in the background, you can see it. Really, really cool set there. I do want one, but really fun. Johnny, what'd you think of this one?
This was an interesting one for the fact that I listened to it for the first time when Matt and I were driving out to York last year. And I remember I was teasing Matt and poking fun at him the entire time because,
I remember
you rarely get to listen to an episode. For me, there's 2 levels to it. One, I've never listened to one episode with somebody at the same time. And 2, I was listening to the guy who was on the episode, so I could poke fun of him live. Like, oh, you really thought that, Matt? Are you serious? Mm-hmm. Get out of here. And all that fun stuff. But it was really fun. Really liked that episode. It reminds me of fun times of just traveling. So good memories associated with this one.
What you're trying to say is forget about it.
Forget about it. Yeah.
There you go. Man, what could the next one be about? I don't know.
This is kind of an exciting one to talk about since we will be returning to York. in a couple of weeks. So this is episode 30, which is the York Train Show Fall 2021 experience. This was published on November 16th, 2021. And this actually, at this point, like episode 30, we started getting a lot of downloads
Yes.
on our podcast. I think what really helped, obviously, was Eric's episode, which kind of got a lot of exposure for us. And, now we started getting a lot more people listening to us. It's been great. But anyway, back to this episode. This was cool. It was cool to talk about going to York. It was my first time at York. So I got to talk about like the first time experience, as well as Johnny too. And then we had Matty C on, who was kind of a veteran of going into the Fall York show, and we could ping questions off him and stuff like that. So yeah, great episode.
Oh yeah, and plus, like I was on there too. I haven't been yet. I do need to go. I've just been, life is kind of taking over for me to go right now, but I do want to go. I just am a little bit bummed out that I can't go with you guys for the Matt part, but I'll be there, and I'll be there in spirit too. You can call me up and I'll give you an I'm walking here or whatever. But no, this was a lot of fun. It gave me a lot of insight on what to and what not to do during the York show. So I know that when I go, I can listen to this and have an idea of what to do. Also, it says something here about let's see. I'm just gonna read this. It says, join Matt R, Matt Z, Johnny, and Matty C as we discuss our York 2021 Fall Train Show experience. We also reveal a new permanent host that has joined the podcast. Who is it? Listen and find out. You have any idea who that could be?
I was really discreet about it. So
I bet you it was some schmuck.
Who was it, Johnny? Do you know?
No, I don't know. Some schmuck probably. I don't know. But no, this was a good episode. Yeah, Matt and I had a mini version of this episode with our buddy Jason. We were coming back from York because we were so like awe-inspired by the whole experience, because it was literally 3 days of nonstop trains. And it was just so much fun. And getting to share that information on the podcast was great. And kind of really tell folks what York's about, because it's this big thing where it's like the pilgrimage you need to make as a 3-rail scaler. And you don't really have much information on it. It's not something that's really talked about aside from look what I bought at the show. So giving people that insight hopefully inspired a lot of folks. And yeah, it was great. And also, I remember this was a really special episode from one of our listeners of the podcast, and I hope he's listening to this episode. Tony from the Rambles. I remember this was the episode where I think I gave you a shout out at the time. I think I almost caused you to veer off the road because I shocked you so much when you were driving. But Tony's a dear friend of ours here at the podcast, and it was really nice that he also gave us a shout out back on his channel for that. But yeah, I remember when it came to you guys asking me to be a host, you did it in a way that was like so cryptic, even for me, because we would be on calls talking with each other. And then, they'd be like, oh, Johnny, we need to talk to you about something. Oh, okay. And we can't say it here. Oh, okay. Am I in trouble? Because I thought it was just about the York episode. And then, no, those two brought me into a private call, and I was very flattered that they asked me to join them on the podcast. Like, again, the joke was, I'm the number one fan of the podcast. To go from fan to co-host is mind blowing. So, my time here at the podcast has been great. It's a great show, great community with it, and it's almost been a year since I joined the podcast. So I'm 1 year down, almost down, and hopefully many more to come.
And to think that, Matt and I were talking about it, and, we're thinking, we want to have another host just for reasons that, we'll get to later. But, we're thinking about it. Who do we want to have on? We threw names out and just kind of spitballing ideas back and forth of what do we want to do and this, that, and the other thing. And your name came up, and we're like, you know what, let's do it. For obviously for the geographical location, you and Matt are close. I'm the odd man out, but what can you do? I guess that's the fun of the hobby. But we figured, what, why not have you on? Yeah, so like you said, went from number one fan to number one host, I guess. Maybe
from fan to foamer.
There you go. Now what we need to do is get the foam finger that says number one fan and have you wear it at York.
Matt foam figure. I like that.
Yes. Matt, what do you think? Foam finger?
Yes. Foam finger. Yeah, this was and congrats, Johnny. It's been a blast since you've been on it. And Matt kind of put it, Matsy kind of put it the best. Like, we kind of a list together and I think it was definitely like we wanted to make sure we tagged everybody with that maybe had a potential to be on as our host, but like, I think it was a no-brainer to ask you if you would like to come on, just because of your relationship with us, and we liked the way that you had presented yourself, just hopefully hopefully a lot more episodes for you in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I've come here to ruin your podcast.
Just not on this podcast. You're fired.
Yeah. I was wondering when that was going to happen. I fired both of you. Now I'm
congrats. This is your last episode ever.
This is it. Your time is up.
Yeah. It's a good ride.
Oh, yeah. It's been fun.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on to episode 31. So here we are with another interview. So we interviewed YouTube model railroader Chris from RBP Trainz. This was on November 25th of 2021. And one of our, all three of us can say, like, one of our favorite YouTubers, our favorite friends. I shouldn't say favorite friends. Like, you shouldn't like have favorite friends, but one of our good buddies of the podcast, a fantastic YouTuber, and probably a super up and coming superstar YouTuber, Chris from RBP Trainz. And we enjoyed having him on. He was a fantastic guest, and he gave us so much, a lot of laughs in that episode for sure.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. Still not as many laughs as DJ and Sterling. That one takes the cake. But no, this was a great episode. Talking with Chris, it was another one of those, really fun episodes, and really kind of gave a really good inspiration on, why we do this, and to talk to people that, we can consider friends and influencers, and, whatever term you want to use, go ahead. But no, this was a great episode. Talking with Chris was always a lot of fun, and just a great guy, really, really very humble guy. A lot of fun.
He's just such a cheerful person, very cheerful, positive, optimistic person. And you just watching Chris's stuff and just talking to him, you can literally hear the smile on his face when he talks. And he's just a great guest, great friend of ours. And hopefully, we can spend a little bit more time with Chris at York this year. He's hopefully someone we can get to hang out with a little bit more, at least for me personally.
Yep. So moving on, we go into episode 32. This was the Atlas the Winter 21-22 Premiere Catalog Review. This published on December 3rd of 2021. And we had a special guest on this. We had RJ, our good friend RJ came on, who is an absolute expert on anything Amtrak. And we thank RJ for coming on and giving us his expertise. He had so much insight on this, and I had a lot of fun in this episode, and I learned a lot of stuff about Amtrak for sure.
Me too. And this was a spur of the moment. Like, we were ready to record. We were ready to hit go. And we asked RJ, like, you want to come? He said, sure. And we did it. And this was a lot of fun. We still got to get him on for an interview one of these days. We'll to rectify that. But no, this was a great episode. The catalog itself was good. This is the hype on this one, of course, was the Amtrak, the P42s and the Amfleet cars, and really fun stuff. I know they're due out here soon, and they'll be cool once they come out. I'll be really curious to see what people think of them. I might look into one myself. I thought about ordering one when they came out, but just didn't pull the trigger. But no, this is a great catalog, really fun episode.
I'm still waiting on my P42s. But yeah, no, RJ was really helpful to have on the podcast. Not only because because of his Amtrak knowledge, because RJ is just a really fun guy to talk to. He's really, really knowledgeable, and he loves joking around. He's a great guy, and it's definitely RJ's a big part of why I even bought this set, because the more he talked about it, the more he explained the paint schemes and the engines and the passenger trains that are associated with Amtrak. It was guaranteed that I was going to order them, which I have. So eagerly waiting, and hopefully we can do something with that PFA sequence, so we can stick RJ as the station announcements. I feel like that'd be really fun.
I could do that.
Be better.
All right, and continuing our tradition, although we did it a little bit early, so Matt Z was very angry. But yeah. Episode 33.
I told them to do it or else.
Yeah. Episode 33, 2021 year in review. Did we really buy all that again? Which is actually a very well received episode as well. That was I love doing those, just to kind of like talk about and what we traded, what we bought, what we sold, stuff like that. Good fun episode.
Oh yeah, and this was one of those, like, I know the first one we did it back in 21 or 22 I'm sorry, 20 at that point, 2020. We were all kind of like, God, we really bought all that. And I know when I was making my list for that episode, it was almost like a page and a half of stuff. I'm like, it shocks me when you think of, I really did buy all that. And I'm thinking, my God, what was I thinking? But I did. And it was a fun episode, and I really enjoyed it. And a little insight here on this particular episode here. We were going to stop at this particular episode, but we've decided to keep going. So we got more to go. Johnny, what'd you think of this one real quick?
Doing the list for everything for the year, it's kind of scary in a way, because you realize how much you spent in the year, and and also you see what you expanded and what you condensed in your collection. And for stuff like that, it puts it into perspective. But also it was really cool to see what items kind of go between different people. For example, between the three of us, we've all traded items at some point, and things have moved from collection to collection. But yeah, it was a fun episode. And I know Matt Z is already excited to see what his list is going to be at the end of this year.
Oh, for sure. And yes, Matt, I'm bringing this up. You ready?
No.
Yes. Well, here we go anyway.
No, please.
This was the year that Matt and I traded for the he traded me a set of Vision Line reefers, the Pacific Fruit Express, the Big Boy run, the 2014 run, and the freight cars from the Erie Triplex set. The coal cars and the caboose. The set is great. The caboose is the star of that set, hands down. Obviously, the engine's cool, but as far as the freight cars go, the caboose is the star of the show. And I traded him a little set called the Lionel California Zephyr diesels, the Burlington F3s, the silver painted ones. Beautiful set. I honestly, when I don't like to do this. I like trading, but that set was one of those that I really honestly had a very hard time saying yes to selling it, to trading it, or doing anything, keeping it out of my possession, put it that way. And we were going back and forth on did I want to sell it? Did you just want to buy it? Whatever it was. We ended up on selling. But, I boxed it up. I really felt kind of sad. I felt really sad when I took it to the store to drop it off to ship it to him. I'm like, I looked at it. I was about ready to shed a tear when I watched that box go onto the cart. I'm like, that's my F3. It's the set I never thought I'd get rid of. So, Matt gets it, whatever. So he takes 1 unit out of the box. 1 unit. That's all he did. He goes, I tested it, whatever. I said, where's the rest of the set? I never opened it. You're kidding me, right? And what's he do? He goes to sell it on eBay. And I never let him down for it. It's a fun little joke. I can't believe that. How dare you?
You guys know the saying, an elephant never forgets? Well, Matt Z never forgets.
No, Matt Z never forgets.
No, he never
forgets. He doesn't remember the sweat and tears I used to reglue all of those windows in that subway.
Oh, that was the year before. That's not this. That was the year before.
But now I have something to come at you with. So now they nullify each other.
That is true. We'll give it to, hey, you know what? We'll have to keep the cycle going and see who gets the brunt.
Yeah,
of
right.
Time, right.
That's right.
But in all seriousness, though, I'm glad I got that stuff, and I'm glad you liked the engine for the little bit of time that you did have it. And good. But no, it was the episode itself was fun, and the stuff, like we said, you don't realize how much you bought until it's all on a piece of paper in front of you. What can you do?
Well, moving on to probably I have to say like the pinnacle of this show's history. And we finally got there. This was episode 34. It was the Lionel 2022 Big Book Catalog with Ryan Kunkel from Lionel and Eric Siegel. Again, this was just like, this put us over the top. And it was, how you like, and you have like your stuff you want to do, in life, you check those boxes. This was one of those. This was like the last box on the list, I think, for us. And it was, I really, really felt like we had something here when Lionel said, sure, yeah, we'll come on, we'll talk about your catalog. And Eric's like, hey, I want to come in and talk about it too. We're like, okay, we can do that. And I was in awe. It's hard to even say anything else about this episode. It was fantastic.
Oh yeah, we were putting this one together, and it was still kind of crazy. We had to do some things that we didn't normally do for episodes, but to get this kind of going. But once we did and got through all that, it was just a lot of fun to do it, and to have the man who made the catalog on to talk about it, and to hear. In that particular case, we actually did that one prior to the release of the catalog, a few days before the catalog came out. And we talked about it, and Ryan was like, it'll be nice to hear the first feedback for the consumer side with the catalog. And that's what we did. We had a lot of fun, and it was great to know that. I think that's going to be our new permanent goal for catalogs, is to have us 5 on there. But we'll see. A lot of fun, though. Really enjoyed it.
This was a very cool episode for just to listen to and also to be part of. I wasn't around as a co-host yet when you guys interviewed Eric for the first time. So this was my first interaction with Eric, and getting to talk with Ryan was super cool. And it was it's kind of overload for me, because like we're talking to Lionel and Eric Siegel at the same time. So my brain is like, oh my God. It was definitely a highlight for me. I was definitely a little bit more passive that time around, because I was just like, two titans in the industry here. Got to make sure I'm not a complete weirdo. But yeah, it was a very fun episode. Very long episode. I think all of us were very tired by the end of it, but it was really fun.
Yeah, I think that one was, I forget what the running time of that one was, but it was very long. I know it was almost like midnight by the time, midnight Eastern time, by the time we were done with it. It was like, my Lord. Actually, speaking of a long time, Eric, we did his, I think it was around almost like 12:30 Eastern time when we were done with that one, Matt. That was a long episode. We could kept going. I mean, that's why I said when we were doing that one, I want to have Eric on for an interview style one again, because that could have easily been about a 5-hour episode. if not longer. That was just a great episode. But no, going back to this one, yeah, this was great, and it's nice to know that we've got kind of a nice little bunch here.
And then obviously continuing on from that, as we were kind of felt like we were on top of the world, we were still there because on episode 35, we had a chance to interview Ken Bianco Jr. from the Train World Model Train Store. And this was published on January 28th of this year, 2022. And this was great. One of the great things about this that I enjoyed is that we got to talk to somebody on the retail side of the industry and what it takes to get orders in, how they determine what's they're going to sell or what's on sale, what goes, all the inner workings of being a retailer of Lionel. And he was a fantastic guest. And, we're going to do more with Ken Bianco Jr. as well, but I'll leave that as a surprise for later on. So what'd you guys think of this episode?
This was a joy. I had a lot of fun. This was full of laughs, a lot of great insight about the industry from a retailer's perspective, and just really cool. Just a very cool episode. And Ken's such a great guy. He's very personable. He's very funny, very wise. And it also resulted in one of Matt Z's favorite moments in Mad Mad podcast history, but I'll let him take care of that one there.
Yeah, this episode was a lot of fun, kind of like what Johnny was saying, with talking with Ken, and it was great to get that insight into the hobby that, especially for the new market. And later on, we'll talk about the used market because that was in here as well. But getting to talk with him was just a lot of fun. And yes, he did do the little authentic thing. I don't know what it is. Matt, could you help me out with that?
Hey, I'm walking over here.
Yeah, and I think, there you go. Yeah, you got where I was going with that. But no, this was a lot of fun, and I really think that we could maybe hit something up with Ken eventually later on and see what he's got in store. And I got to throw a quick little shout out to Ken too. He is very involved with listening to our episodes, and we have an email string with us and Ken in there. And he'll use it a lot to talk to us and just say, "Hey, nice episode. I really enjoyed it. You guys are doing great." That's really great feedback to know that a person with that much power, I guess is the word I'll use, listens to our episodes and has a good time and enjoys them. That means a lot, at least to me. I think that's great.
I think Ken has a good insight on the fact that we channel to kind of like a large tier of groups of demographics is the technical term. So, there's a lot of older folks that listen to us. There's a lot of, middle-aged folks, but then there's also a lot of young folks that listen to our podcast as well. So we try to relate to all the branches as well. Even the hosts here, we're all kind of different ages, which gives us unique perspectives on the industry. And Ken knows that. And the future of this industry is getting young people involved. And I think we talked about that when Ken was on the episode. So, super smart guy, 100%.
Absolutely. And two, I know he was, thrilled to be on there. He mentioned, us and the podcast specifically a number of times, how great of a job we're doing. And like I said, it means a lot. So big thanks, Ken.
Moving on to episode 36, one that I don't remember who had come up with this one, but this was the Many Sounds of O Scale. And this was published on February 18th, 2022. And I think we, as model railroaders and being in O Scale, I think we are entirely blessed with probably the best sounding scale in terms of model railroading. Yeah, they got stuff for like HO and N, and there's like speakers you can buy and stuff to put under your layout and stuff. But I mean, the stuff that they put in O scale, you know, engines and other sound units that they could put sound in, there's no competition, you know. And this was a really fun episode to talk about that.
For sure. You know, you talk about, you know, sounds and, you know, how it's evolved from, you know, the sound of steam and the air whistle and things like that to, you know, stuff that is just beyond. You know, you're talking multiple speakers, stereo sound, you know, having some sounds come out of one part of the engine, other sounds out of the other. It's crazy to think that what's gone on with the sounds over the past number of years. But then I think this topic, I think, was kind of a mix of Johnny and I. We're just kind of thinking about sounds and where they came from, and I think that's what this one got its wings from. But no, this is a great episode. We even hit on the editing side with the MTH stuff, and you know that's something that myself and Isaac O'Scale every day we like to dabble with, and people enjoyed our work, and that means a lot to us. Because you know it's a little bit of a deal to do those types of things, but it's fun once they get done right, and it's just great stuff. Johnny, what did you think?
Yeah, this was a really good episode that I really enjoyed. Sounds make up a very big part of the hobby for me. If I'm running my train, I want it to sound like the train that it's supposed to be. And yeah, just touching base on, you know, the different options you have in that hobby, whether that be Lionel or MTH or what have you. And even the aspect of going full out customs. Like I'm a big supporter of like you said, Isaac's work and your work, as you guys can take models that have so meh sound files and either change to be something that's out there on the market to an engine you really like, or go completely off the wall and make custom stuff like custom whistles, bells, idles, chuffs, or, you know, revs, everything. Yeah, definitely something that I'm very passionate about, and something that we at the Mad Mad podcast community Discord are very excited and passionate about, because got a great community of people there. But yeah, awesome episode.
Absolutely. You know, heck, even going on custom sounds, we even is a guy. His name is K's Models. Greg is his name, and so he made a TikTok with Alco startups, and he has it playing to a certain part in the song "Surfing Bird" by the Trashmen, and one of the guys, his name is Red Matt, on the Matt Matt server. He made a sound set, and the prime mover sounds is that song. It is the funniest thing you'll ever hear. It's just so cool, these things that people can do. When he told me he did it, and I listened to it. I think Sid and I both had the same reaction. He goes, "This guy's got a lot of time on his hands." It was a lot of fun.
For sure.
All right. Well, moving on to episode 37, which is interview with Scott Griggs from the Trainz.com website. This was published on March 18th of 2022. I think this is the first episode ever without Matt Z.
Yes, this was the first one without me. I had something else going on that day. I was visiting my grandparents at the time, and I know, Matt, you asked me a couple times could I do it. I didn't have the equipment with me, otherwise I would have. But
Yep.
No, this was fun. So being able to kind of a reverse of what Johnny did, you know, being a listener on that one. I listened when I was going to Atlantic City. I think I listened to it twice, once on the way up, once on the way back, just because that was just such a great episode. And Scott is a great guy. And that's the knowledge I was talking about with the used market, which, you know, they deal with new stuff too, but the majority of what they deal with is used stuff. And the way I kind of described it was it's the eBay for trains only. And I think that that's something that is really cool to know there's a company that basically specializes in only trains. And it's a lot of fun to have him on as a guest. And obviously we have a sponsorship with them, and that's a lot of fun being able to have that. We have an affiliate link, a discount code, which all of this you heard in the beginning of the episode. and just great. So Scott, it was a great interview. The backstory, I love that one with the standard gauge state set. Standard gauge state set is one of those sets that, if you're in O scale, you almost O scale. If you're into Trainz, you almost love that set. Just because it's so cool looking. But yeah, it was a really fun episode. Sucks I couldn't be on it, but you know what? What can you do?
Yeah, we missed you, buddy. But talking with Scott again, this was as Matt Z said as a listener on the actual hosting side of it. He's just a blast. He was thoroughly entertaining, a super smart guy, knows a heck of a lot of how the model railroading industry works. And so hats off for Scott for taking the time to come on the podcast. And also, I wanted to give a big shout out to Kevin as well, who we work with on the train side of things. So thank you, Kevin, for working with us. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we'll be able to meet you in person one day. And hopefully we'll be able to meet Scott at York this year. I'm sure he'll be there unless somebody else knows something that I don't. So it'll be a big blast to kind of meet Scott in person as well.
That episode was really fun. I really enjoyed that one a lot. Scott's really great, has some great stories, is willing to joke around with us, and we had a lot of great laughs as well. The box story was great, and it was just so much fun. And really, and I say this genuinely as a customer and as a model railroader, I really found it very interesting to hear the insight behind Trainz and how they operate and what goes on in the back end. And also really made me more open to buying from them. Like, I think that was the turning point for me where I went from eBay to mostly Trainz now for their stuff. And again, this is just outside of our sponsorship stuff. Like we were all customers of theirs before that even happened. And that just confirmed for us, like, that we, even more so, that we enjoy working with them. And they've been gracious enough to, like we said earlier at the episode, even let us have a table with them at York, which was very kind of them to do.
All right, moving on with our interviews. We get to episode 38, which was the interview with YouTube model railroader Chris M. from Chris's Trainz and Things. And this was published on March 28th, 2022. Hats off for Chris. This was a fantastic episode. The guy is a landscaping artist, very, very technical when it comes to creating scenes, on his layout. And I had a great, fantastic chance to be invited into his house last year at York. And he invited a few of us into his home, and I was able to see his layout, and it is just phenomenal looking. And the little detailed scenes that he makes, I won't lie, I took notes and I brought that home and tried to recreate some things on my layout as well, because I just love the way they looked. So hats off to you, Chris. Thank you for coming on to this episode. And it definitely won't be the last time coming on. We definitely want to have you on to talk about landscaping and detailing for sure.
Yeah, I think that this one was great. Talking with Chris, we talked with Chris, before and still do. Great guy. I mean, what a man. Let me tell you. I know that when we talked about the scenery part, I know that a couple things that really got me was his facilities with the engine house and the turntable area. That roundhouse, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that if you didn't know that was a picture of a model, you would swear that was a real thing. Same with his farm scene he's got on his upper level there. You'd swear it was a real thing. It's just great stuff. I know he takes a lot of inspiration from Norm Charbonneau, and I can absolutely see it. Very great stuff. Really, really enjoyed that interview and love to have him on again for sure.
Totally agree with what you guys said. Chris is a good friend of ours. He, like Matt said, was gracious enough to let us visit him during York last year, and his layout's phenomenal. Really great to hear his history with scenery and how he got into the hobby, and also just getting to hear how railroading kind of just runs in his family, and that kind of story like that always warms your heart. So yeah, great guest, and can't wait to see Chris this year at York, and I can't wait to hopefully have him on the podcast again soon in the future.
All right, well, moving on to episode 39. This is one where like Matt and Z were unfortunately disposed because somebody came on and hijacked the podcast. This was published on April 20th, 2022. I'm just gonna put this one straight to Johnny to talk about.
This was a really fun episode for the perspective of being able to do Matt's intro. Was very fun. And kind of make these guys be the interviewees rather than the interviewers. And it also was a really important step for us at the podcast as well, because we had such an influx of new listeners that we want to make sure that our new listeners get a chance to know our hosts here. And it was really fun. It was nice to kind of step back and do an us episode, because we were doing so many back-to-back interviews that it was just a chance for us hosts to kind of catch up and talk about our stuff, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. How about you guys? How was it being thrown in the passenger seat for once?
It was weird. Like, Matt and I, we actually did this episode once, and the audio quality was poor. I don't know what happened to it. It just didn't work out. But we ended up doing. Actually, it was long before you were on, Giant. It was like episode, I think, like 11 or 12. That we were going to do it for, and we tried to do it, and so it just wouldn't work. It was actually Matt interviewing me and then me interviewing Matt, and so it just didn't work, but it worked for you, and it was a lot of fun. We even got to use Regis Philbin, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that when he was talking about hot seat, I'm like, Matt, we have to put Regis Philbin in there, so we did, and a lot of fun. But no, this is great, being able to tell our stories and how we, got to, this was one of the ones where we did talk about how we started the podcast, and, it's like getting to tell our stories and how we got into Trainz, and getting to know us is good to know too. It's always good to know the voices behind the show that you're listening to. And this was how we were able to do it. And I think it was great. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it was interesting being put on the spot, because we didn't really have any clairvoyance on what Johnny was going to ask. I think we had an idea, but I think a couple of those questions I really had to kind of think about, even though, like Matt said, we had a kind of episode like before that unfortunately had a weird audio anomaly in it. And it was just, it sounded like crap. I'll put it bluntly. And I'm like, I told Matt, I'm like, there's no way that we could put this out there to let people listen to. Like, this is not at the quality of what we want the Mad Mad podcast to be. And it's kind of a shame too, because I think it was like over an hour of recording too. So we're like, you know what, let's do something else. And then we'll do it again in the future. So, and you know what, it was probably meant to be, because it ended up being better with Johnny being the host and us being the guests at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really good. I don't know if we could really do something like this again. Maybe we could. I don't know. But it was a good episode nonetheless.
Yep. Yeah. So moving on to episode 40. So almost done, folks. We're in the final lap here.
Final countdown.
So this was an interview with YouTube moderator Jason Stuckert from JD Stucks. This was published on April 29th, 2022. And again, fantastic episode. Jason's a friend of the podcast, a personal friend of ours. We love talking with him. He's got just a fantastic layout. He's also a big Diesel fan. So, hats off to you, Jason. We need more Diesel guys, in this hobby. He buys
a lot of black and white.
He does.
And not Vision Line either.
He is a big Norfolk Southern guy as well. So, but just a really cool episode. What'd you think, Matt?
This was fun. Talking with Jason, I think this was another one of those, long time coming sort of episodes that we finally got it done. I've been watching Jason for years. I remember when him, Nick, and Nick, PG Train Fanatic, which we'll talk about later, and Eric kind of all got going, and watching Jason build his layout at his parents' home, and then watching this new one. I actually was watching him build his new one, his current one that he has now, not too long ago, just because I felt like binge watching something, and I watched his episodes when he was doing that, getting the basement all set up and all that. Was just great to watch, and really that was a fun episode. I'd love to do something with him again. And yes, it was fun poking at the Norfolk Southern and the MTH side of things, just because it's fun to do those types of things. But great episode, and I really enjoyed it. And of course, there was something else I was going to say, but was that he does now have Legacy, and he has had Legacy engines on his layouts, so he's not all MTH anymore.
Yeah, no, it was great to have Jason on. Another nostalgic YouTuber for a lot of us in the hobby, and getting to talk to him and just ask him questions about his process and how his channel developed, and a lot of that stuff there was really fun. And also, Jason's a good friend of ours from the podcast here, and I've been fortunate enough to go to Jason's place and run trains with him a couple of times, and going at the Trainapalooza is always so much fun, and he puts so much effort into making sure that everything goes smoothly, to the point where sometimes he's running around like a madman. But yeah, Jason's a great friend, and he's absolutely amazing, and we appreciate all that he does.
All right, let's keep moving on here. So we're going into episode 41, which I believe was the first episode that Johnny had missed as a host. Yes, and this actually ended up being, okay, I have to say, like, this is definitely, I'm repeating myself, but this is definitely one of the top 5 episodes for me. I absolutely loved talking with Angela. So this was episode 41, interview with master artist Angela Trotta Thomas. This was published on May 9th, 2022. She was an absolute joy to talk to. And I think one of the reasons was that she was like the first guest we have on that was not like a model, like a true, like full-time model railroader, like, or like in the industry as like a retailer or a manufacturer. She was an artist, so she was this very unique figure for us to have on the podcast and an interview. And I don't know, it was just fantastic. I loved every minute of that episode, and I hope that she comes on again. I would love to have her on the podcast again.
Absolutely. It's I will admit that first of all, one thing, that this was the OG podcast. It was one of I think it was the first one since I believe Johnny was on as permanent host that you and I were able to do one. It was just fun. Good old time there. Like old time's sake, I think is how I put it. But no, I will admit I was a little kind of reluctant to do this one at first. Just because I was a little, I don't know what the word is, but it was a little different doing a not directly involved with the industry figure in the hobby. And so, but obviously I'm on there, and I had a great time. Once we started getting going and all of that, it was a lot of fun. Angela, her work is fantastic. I've said it in the episode, and I still need to buy some stuff from her, but her work is just fantastic. The painting she does, and it's just great to know that there are, people that love her work, and we do too. And it's great to see it. My favorite part of that was she did one for the Lionel catalog for 2001, which was the 9/11 catalog with the fire hall in the background, and we got to talk about that. And that story was that was a fantastic story, and it was a great episode. And like Matt said, I'd love to have her on again, and I won't be reluctant this time. Great stuff.
Yeah, no, really fun episode. Kind of just parroting what the guys said. really fun to have another OG Matt and Matt episode where it was the original Matts once again. So that was really fun to kind of, it was a nostalgia trip in a way. And then just, Angela's a great guest. And like you guys said, she's such a different figure in the industry where you get to hear an artist's perspective, and it isn't just us talking about, oh, this railroad and blah, 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 blah. It's a very more creative take on things. And I hope we get a chance to have her on so I can ask her some questions myself as well.
Oh, well, you did ask one in spirit.
What was my question again? I don't remember.
You wanted me to ask about the hobby shop.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Mm.
Yeah, so I had a question from John. I just read it straight out of the message you sent me. I didn't even sugarcoat nothing. I just said, here's what he's got to say. Answer it.
Well, I appreciate you asking me that question on my behalf, dude.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Thank you.
If you don't care,
right,
man, I want to introduce this next one.
Go ahead, go for it.
I'm gonna say the heck with you and do it anyway. Ready? Here we go.
Well,
right.
42 is the answer to the equation of the universe. So
I guess so. But all right, this is episode 42, and it was a flashback to 90s O-Gauge technology with Sid. And this was on Monday, May 23rd of 2022. I'm introducing this one only because if you listen to this episode, you will hear a very familiar voice that you're listening to right now do the intro and the majority of the running of the mouth in this one. This was a lot of fun, I came up with this idea to talk about the 90s stuff. For Sid and I, it's a huge nostalgia trip. He's been to Tony Lash's layout a couple times, and I binged watched The Great Layout Adventures with Tony Lash and all those early TM videos. I know them by heart, which is maybe a good thing and a bad thing. I don't know. But this was just something I really wanted to do. And the sound episode, a number of episodes back, was the one that kind of inspired me to think, why don't we do one on the 90s stuff? So Sid and I, we talked about, what led up to the 90s and the technology that was brought about in the 90s, including the start of command control. And then obviously, of course, the Proto 1 era with MTH just kind of getting going with their items that they had made. And MTH as a company, because they were mid 90s when they started. Really, really fun episode there. I'd love to continue the series and go to 2000s and beyond. And we'll have to look into that next time I have a chance to do an episode, just because it was a lot of fun. And if you listen to the very end, there's a little bit of a blooper in there, which I thought was funny that Matt kept in. And by the way, in all these, listen all the way to the very end, because there's some funny bloopers on some of these. But Matt, what'd you think of this one?
yeah, I mean, this was definitely one that I was probably most far away from, because obviously, as somebody that doesn't really have any Proto Sound 1 and, doesn't have a lot of like 90s O-Gauge technology. As far as like a few like, Lionel pieces from the big rugged sets, it's kind of eye opening, and it was very, I have to say it was probably a learning experience for me more than anything. And obviously listening to Sid talk about technology and stuff like that, and yourself as well, Matt, was definitely a joy. So yeah, I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, get to listen to us foam and nerd out a little bit. Right, Johnny?
What a bunch of nerds. No, it was a good episode. Yeah, definitely one where I definitely was taking a step back. I did get a chance to reminisce with you guys, because the 90s are nostalgic for me as well. But yeah, no, you guys seemed to have a lot of fun, and by extension, it was fun to listen to as well.
All right, let's continue on, and we're going to move on to a pretty entertaining episode.
Oh, this was fun.
This was episode 43. This was an interview with Mike Reagan.
Thank you.
From MTH Parts and TW Trainworks. This was published on June 8th, 2022. Holy moly, what a ride this was. Like, he is super smart guy, super entertaining. We had a blast with this, and his stories are probably the best stories we've had. I have to say, from a guest on this podcast.
No, this episode was great. Mike Reagan, for me, watching the early Lionel customer service videos was kind of my introduction to Mike Reagan and what he did. And so we got to talk about Lionel and his time with them, talk about this new MTH parts and sales site, which, my God, I told Sid this the other day. I'm like, where was this 10 years ago? I mean, the site is fantastic. It's just great. So, Mike, if you're listening to this, huge thanks for the site. And I know I mentioned the episode too, but the site is just fantastic and it's great. And I can't wait to see what else you got planned for it. But really fun episode, like Matt said, very entertaining stories. And I really hope that we have him on again. And oh yeah, I was fired in this episode. And I think Matt, you were too.
I was the sole host. I was the sole host because you were both fired.
On what do you say? On this episode?
Yeah.
No, all three of us were on that episode.
No, you were fired by Mike Reagan.
Yeah, fired by Mike Reagan.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah,
and then let's see, Johnny, or as Mike said, it's what did he say? It's not it's not as much of a hassle as John ballasting a switch. Well, he poked fun at all of us. That was a great episode. Oh yeah, he poked fun at me because I came in too early when Matt was introducing the co-host.
That one has got to be hands down my favorite episode I've done with you guys as a co-host. It was just so much fun, and you really, he wasn't afraid to joke back and tease you and make fun of you. But it was a fun episode. But yeah, no, he was a great guest, and he wasn't afraid to fire back. His stories, he just tell you how it was, and he's a very transparent guy, and I really appreciate about that. And I don't think I've laughed as hard as I did for that particular episode. And even the fact that he played along with the jokes of like us firing both of y'all, and him bringing Matt R back, and we ran with that bit too, yes, which led to a lot of really fun episodes following. So yeah, Mike is definitely one of my favorite guests we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's continue on here. And yes, as Johnny pointed out, at this point, Matt C had been fired from the show. I was brought back because Johnny did not want to have to edit the episodes. And we decided to interview the trio. This was episode 44. This is an interview with YouTube moderators George, Wally, and OG George. The boys from GFW Trainz. This was published on June 22nd of 2022. And I think we had a good feedback on this one as well. And this was fun. This was, I'll be perfectly honest with you, to our listeners here. This is kind of like an autopilot one for us because I didn't have to ask much questions. They just started and went on from topic to topic, and I absolutely loved it. So.
We just listened live, dude. That's all we really did. But no, GFW Trainz is local to us Chicago guys, and they're great folks. And we've hung out with them multiple times at the Yes Railroad at their place, and at the York Train Show as well. So it was really fun, really great guys, and yeah, definitely an episode where we just hit record and we let them go.
Yeah, it was a fun one. I mean, for that one as a listener, that one I couldn't make it. I had other things to do. Oh wait, no, what I should have said was I was fired, but no, I all seriousness, I couldn't make it. But no, it was a fun episode. I really enjoyed listening to it. Yeah, like you said, it was kind of autopilot. You just kind of asked, I think, one question or two questions, and they just kind of did the rest. And it was nice to hear their stories, and especially from three different aspects, generations rather, of folks, which we don't get very often, having a father, a son, and a grandson, which was great to hear. It's nice to hear their story, especially from OG George, listening about the all the post-war items, and you keep going on from there. But that was a great episode. I really I enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there, Matt, that having a grandfather, a father, and a son talk about their model railroading experiences and the stories and the times they shared together was phenomenal. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and move into episode 45. This was definitely a favorite of ours. So this was the community feedback, questions and answers, and of course, a legend returns. This was published on July 31st, 2022. And this was tons of fun. Like, I loved the questions that came from the community. And so a big shout out to all of our folks on the Discord server who took the time to send us questions, and questions they did send for sure. So yeah, great episode.
Yeah, I was compiling the list for this, and they just kept comment and comment. I'm like, oh, that was 4 pages of questions or something. It was a long episode, but it was a lot of fun. We answered all of them. And next time I'll have to peruse them a little bit, because there was a couple duplicates in there, but that's okay. What can you do? But that was a lot of fun. That will definitely not be our last episode like that. That was great. And yes, I did come back for that one. And as you hear in the episode, unfortunately, part of my absence was my father passing away. And like Matt just talked about with the, having your memories with the trains, my dad, he was the one who got me into that. And it's hard not having him here. I'll just say that, especially for the trains. It's said he's a man who got me into, and actually, unfortunately, the day he did pass away, myself and my brothers, we all came along to back here, and they wanted to come see my train, so we did that. And I wouldn't be lying if I didn't think that I wish he could have been there. It was hard to know that when I came back that he was ready to pass, but it was a fun episode, and that's why I had to dedicate it to him. But really fun, and I hope that like I said, we'll definitely do more like that again. That was a great episode, really fun.
Johnny, how about yourself?
When it comes to that episode, for me personally, it was a really fun episode. Definitely a very long episode for us. But yeah, it was cool. It was a thing where we've always discussed this from the host perspective. It's really hard for us to get feedback from our communities, in terms of like getting like directly off of like the podcasting apps and such. Our Discord community is amazing with feedback, and getting a chance to directly ask you guys, the listeners, for your thoughts and opinions and questions was really great, and something that we were just completely blown away by. And yeah, it was fun to hear what you guys want to know and all the jokes you poked at all of us. So it was a great episode. And like Matt said, it's definitely something we want to do again. Basically, just the more we can interact with you guys and make the show more enjoyable for everyone, the more fun we have. So definitely 100% great episode. And I hope we can do it again soon.
And honestly, I think that was one of them where, when we first threw the list out, was like, I'm sorry, when we threw the post out, you did that, Johnny. And, we were talking about, wonder how many questions we'll get. And they said they kept coming in droves. I couldn't believe it. I was throwing them in my Word doc faster than they were, they were coming in so fast. I couldn't believe it. But no, that was a really fun episode. And like I said, hope we get to do it again. I honestly thought we weren't going to get too many questions, but yeah, we got quite a few.
All right, moving on here. And we're getting close to the end here, so we can probably start keeping these a little bit more tighter since these are, the most like recent episodes from the last couple months. But we have episode 46 which was an interview with the YouTube moderator Nick from PGH Train Fanatic. That was published on August 7th, 2022. Again, there's great interview. We wanted Nick on for the longest time. We finally got him scheduled in. And so we really appreciate the time he took to come on the episode. Any quick thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, I thought that this one was, this, like I said earlier, with the big three, with Nick, Eric, and Jason. That was one of those where, we wanted Nick on for a while, and I remember messaging him on Facebook saying, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?" And he said, "Absolutely." And it just, time got away from us, and we were busy. He was busy, which, hey, it happens. But we were able to get it done. It was a great episode. I really had a good time.
Huge nostalgia trip, that one. I was watching Nick's recap video in the background. I was on mute while we were interviewing him, and just seeing his layout and talking to him was just so cool. And Nick is definitely someone I grew up watching. So getting a chance to just joke around with him and just reminisce was so much fun.
Oh, we joked around too. We got some of his early stuff in there. I'm on a boat, black and yellow, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to episode 47. Again, this was the second time that we did this. So this was Lionel 2022 Volume 2 catalog with both Ryan and Eric Siegel. This was published on August 14th, 2022. Not much to say here. Like, this was basically, like, again, an awesome episode with both Lionel and Eric on there. Thank you to both Ryan and Eric for taking the time to come on and talk to us about the catalog. And of course, we're definitely, all future catalogs definitely going to be here on this podcast, both with Ryan and Eric, who definitely love coming back and talking about it. Just great stuff, folks.
Yeah, this was fun. I think Eric did a live stream with RBP Chris, and he jokingly said, "You're going to be on the podcast, right?" And we tried. We really did try. Maybe this next one we'll just see if Chris could join us. We could have 6 of us going at this thing. But no, this one was great. Like I said, big thanks to Ryan and Eric for coming on. This one was fun because we, unlike the previous one, the timing just did not work for us to do it early before the catalog came out. So we ended up doing it after the catalog came out, I believe 2 or 3 weeks after the catalog was released. So we all kind of had our thoughts on it. So what we ended up doing was we ended up using the Discord server for questions. And I'm actually talking with Matt, and we're trying to figure out a way to kind of spice that up a little bit. So we'll see if and when that'll happen. We'll talk about that. But it was fun because we can get the user feedback and ask questions. And we had quite a few questions. I think we had a page and a half or so of questions. And for Ryan, it was just a lot of fun. And, like Ryan said, I think that was a better use of our time, just because we can ask questions that we might not have thought of. I mean, yes, we had our own, but we had the community to ask questions with. And when we did it the first time, we basically had the stuff that we saw, and that was it. So when we did this, we were able to branch it out, and Ryan thought it was a great idea, and so did we. So that's what we ended up going with. Johnny, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed this go around for the catalog. I think the new format, like you said, was really good. Just being able to gather questions from our community and pose them back at Lionel was really fun. For me as a co-host, I really enjoyed this one a lot because it was my second round talking with Eric and Ryan, so I wasn't nearly as nervous as I was last time. So got a chance to really kind of joke around with those guys and have some good laughs. But yeah, definitely a really fun episode.
All right. Moving into episode 48. So the pros and cons of buying new and used items. This is published on August 30th, 2022. And again, just another kind of helping the community episode. We wanted to talk about buying new and used items. And it was really fun. I like talking about it because we thought that topic was kind of something we haven't touched on a lot. And it was good to kind of bring it up and inform the community.
This was fun. This was something a little bit different. Yeah, we talked about, buying and selling in one of our first episodes that we did, but this was different. This was something that, we kind of thought about it as a spur of the moment kind of idea. And it was almost kind of, I joked it as a shameless plug for Trainz, and it kind of was. It was a fun episode nonetheless, but we had this list of things that we came up with, and it was kind of challenging. I remember when I was doing it, I was listening to you guys talk, and I was changing my list as you guys were talking. I'm like, I honestly was having a hard time coming up with 6 things. And so what I did, and it changed a little bit throughout it, but I joke with them that I had a little birthday card. As a matter of fact, that I wrote it on it, just a little scratch pad that I used. It was a birthday card. I showed it to them. They were laughing at me, but it was fun. I'd love to maybe do something like that. It was a little bit of a brain fryer, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe we'll do something with that again. Johnny, what did you think?
It was a really fun episode as well. I just liked the fact there was also again, we did another round of back-to-back interviews, so it was nice to have a more slower paced episode where we can just discuss a topic and the things that we've learned along the way. So really enjoyed that episode.
Oh, and you got a blooper from me in there if you listen to the very end.
That one was a really good one. I really like that.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if they ever sold those cars. They probably did. They were nice. I'll give you that. All right. Last but not least, Matt.
All right. Yep. And wrapping it up, of course, was episode 49, our interview with the New Jersey High Railers Train Club. This was a couple weeks ago, back on September 23rd, 2022. And a lot of fun talking with these gents. It was great to finally kind of have a club on that they could, have an outlet to represent themselves on, and from a podcast perspective. So, it was fun talking with these guys. And I know a few of them are going to York. So hopefully we get a chance to find them and shake their hand and meet them in person.
Yeah, this one was great. Really had a good time with this as a club. A lot of fun and something different that, we weren't really done before. Great stuff. And I think that it kind of opens our doors to having other clubs on. And I think that would be a great thing to do. I know Maddie C was asking about the NOLE, and hey, maybe we'll get him on. You never know. One of the members there, Greg, has talked to us about doing an episode idea, which will be unnamed for now. But I've said we could do it, so we'll have to look into that. But that's it.
Yeah, great episode. Those guys were really funny. Very insightful. They've definitely got great personalities that were very fun to interact with, and learning about the club and the different layouts and people that are part of it, and interviewing the club as well was new for us. So definitely really enjoyed it a lot.
And then another thing, there was three mats on there, one without a T, one T, but that was fun. And for me, the favorite part of that one was the trade center. Talked about New York earlier with the 9/11, and being to see that tribute on there was just really, really cool. And I remember seeing it when it was first, came on the layout and pictures. I haven't been there. I need to go, but it was really cool to see that. So to get the insight on that was just fantastic.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps it up here, because now we're obviously hitting episode 50, which is the episode you're listening to right now. But this was a blast talking about going back and talking about past episodes. We weren't really sure what we were going to do for episode 50. It was, we had been talking about this for the last couple of months on what we wanted to do. And we had all kinds of stuff come up on, what was on the agenda. And, we kind of thought, well, it's 50, we really haven't really ever talked about previous episodes. So we kind of thought that this was maybe a good medium to use to go back. And, we have plenty of other milestones to hit, episode 75 and then, of course, episode 100 and so on and so on. So this episode is going to, we're going to keep going with this, folks. As long as there's people listening to us, we're going to keep recording episodes because there's a bajillion topics that we could cover, right, about this. So, and we're having fun doing it. So, and again, I want to make a shout out to my co-hosts, Matt C and Johnny. You guys have been awesome. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen, doing this podcast with you. And I hope that we get to do many more episodes throughout the years for sure.
Yeah, no, I thought that this episode was really good. And like you said, kind of reminiscing on the past and, kind of like where we were to where we are now. It's hard to believe that, 50 episodes, like I said earlier, who would have known that if we didn't start this, where we'd be today, all of us, heck, we wouldn't know each other except for YouTube channel. Crazy to think, isn't it?
Yep.
But, no, I thought that this one was great. And hey, maybe for episode 100, maybe go from 51 to 50 to 99. You never know. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. Then when we get to episode 5,000, then who knows what will happen then.
Johnny, how about yourself?
Tonight's episode was really fun. Getting to reminisce on all 49 episodes. Jeez, that's a huge amount. And kind of piggybacking off of what Matt R said, like I have to thank the both of you for the experiences that you've been able to that you've provided to me by bringing me on as a co-host, for humoring me when I was your number one super nerd fanboy, and for taking me along this ride with you guys, and to our listeners as well, and to our community. You guys are absolutely amazing. I love interacting with you guys every day on the Discord server. It's something that brightens up my day, and just the fact that folks listen to the podcast and get excited or have suggestions or anything like that is just great. 50 is a huge milestone, and I'm very glad that I could be part of it. So thank you to both Matts and to our team on Discord, and to all of our guests who have taken the time to be part of our show. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up then. Johnny, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on YouTube at Audamus. That is AUDAMUS. And you can also find me on Instagram as well as Facebook under Audamus_Trainz. I do plan to be doing a video for our York trip. So if you would like to be part of that YouTube video or vlog, swing by the Mad 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 podcast table at York, and I will try to get you on camera so we can show off some faces from our community. And you can also find me on the Mad 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 podcast Discord server, where I will be always constantly scrolling through the chats, joining in conversations, and having a ball in the voice chat.
Matt Z, how about yourself, sir?
You can find me on YouTube under Matt-Trainlover9943, Facebook under the same name, and on Instagram is Matts.hobbies. And like Johnny said, on the Discord, usually editing a sound set or just having a good old time on the chats or whatever. And real quick, Johnny, when we did episode 30, I meant to throw this in there, but your vlog that you did for that was off the charts. Was a great video, and I meant to mention that during the thing. And I'm sure as a QA, whatever you want to call it, this thing, Matt, that I'll probably think of other things that I didn't say on here. But in any event, that was it, and really enjoyed this episode tonight.
Yep. And folks, just wanted to say, again, thank you for everybody to listening to us for the last 49 episodes. It's been a blast, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our listeners. So you guys inspire us to make more episodes. We have a fantastic community. So thank you to, again, all the people who left reviews, all of our listeners, all of our folks in the Discord server. and all of our train friends, and of course our families too, who put up with all of our train shenanigans. So again, folks, if you could, we would really appreciate feedback. That's all we ask of you. This podcast is free. We don't expect anything else. But if you could leave us some feedback on any kind of medium you can, Facebook, Apple podcasts, there's a way to leave, a review, give us some stars, tell us if you liked it or not. We really appreciate it. So, and of course, folks, you can find me on YouTube at West Chicago Monterey Road, and on Facebook as West Chicago Monterey Road, and on Instagram as WCMRR. And everyone, I want to wish everybody a wonderful night, and we'll see you for episode 50. Well, won't see us, but you'll hear us on episode 51. Have a good night.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.